Just had one of the best streams. Let's go.
Hey everybody, I'm joined here with TheRealTeeHill, the absolute legendary kart rider today.
Let's go. Let's go.
And yeah, he just accomplished one of the greatest achievements on the kart known to mankind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so we just got the 0 fault platinum run, boys. We got it on the leaderboards. After 100 hours of grind, I think.
100 hours on it?
Yep. Yeah, it's been shameful.
Dude, I can't play that track for more than like one sitting. I don't know how you did it.
Well, you know, obviously, like when it first came out, I was just hyped that the shopping cart was available in single player. And then, you know, our first playthrough was like 90 faults or something, and then we got it down to 44, and then 13. Just gonna pause the stream here. Yeah, down to 13. Then we went to like 9, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, and it was just like it was clearly like possible, but you know, as everyone's seen, a lot of people have seen, it's the challenge with that giga track is not particularly like any one checkpoint. There's strats to clear them all. But it's the fact that you get morphed into the cart, you know, randomly from big falls and fast runs.
Yeah, you have to maneuver yourself around in the cart quite a bit, I noticed.
Exactly, yeah, and you know, sometimes like your head or like your whole body will morph into the cart, and you know, there's no way at the level that I've found myself at that I'm going to be finishing out a 0 fault run jammed all into the cart. You know, I just don't. For me, it always had to be a a no glitch run. You know, I don't consider it cheating, but for me, I don't consider it like a valid run. So yeah, we finally got it tonight.
Insane.
When I came back from I came back from a kayaking trip after I'd probably put in about 85, 90 hours at that point, and I came back and I was having literal PTSD.
You'd hop into the track and you were just shaking right away, just quaking in your boots.
Yeah, literally,
just like super nervous.
The thought of getting shagged by it, you know, just at the thought of getting just done by it again and again and again, and I honestly thought at the time, I thought, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get back on this ever again.
Well, how many attempts? I mean, how far did you get into the track? Like, what was your farthest that you'd made it before this attempt?
Oh, so you know, I'd faulted at checkpoint 86. You know?
Oh no.
Yeah, and it was just like, you know, it was like
no.
I didn't fault. Like I landed on a corner, and then my rider's hand morphed through the bottom of the cart, and he just touched the bottom of the track, and he dies. If he, you know, like you can smack his head off that swinging rock on the crane at the start of the track, and he's just fine. But God forbid you touch the track with his hands, like the most sensitive part of him. So yeah, I'd had, you know, plenty of like nasty failed runs that, you know, but I just knew it was possible.
I loved watching the compilation that Panda just made. You were a big part of that last compilation of all the rage and, you know, frustrating moments that you had on that track. It was really fun to see that.
And I mean, the thing with that is like people clipped a hell of a lot more, but because I was playing copyrighted music, they've all just been deleted. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
that kind of sucks.
Yeah, it does really. But you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't need to see all of them to know that I raged pretty hard at that track. Like,
I think we got the gist of it with what Panda was showing off in that video.
Exactly. Yeah. Like anything else would just start getting repetitive. You know.
Hey Juan, thanks for the raid, man. Hope all's well with you. Thanks for joining the stream today, man.
Yeah, shout out to everyone. Welcome. Like it's I've always caught up on the Trials podcast. Like I've never seen one live. I've always caught up on them. So it's always, you know, like I've never really felt like I was really in a position to be on it. Like I was like, really, what have I got to offer? But
oh no, you've been on my list. No, you've been on my list for a long time, man.
Yeah, you know, like these days, as I'm you know, more and more of an adult, like, you know, I feel like I only grew up like a few years ago. So like, you know, I feel like I've put in a bit, and you know, I'm giving back to the community that's like given me so much. You know, like
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. I still feel like a kid. I don't feel like I've grown up quite yet, but you know, it's really fun doing these community things and you know, getting to know a lot more people
Yeah,
firsthand and
absolutely,
talking to you guys more.
absolutely, and yeah, it's great to see so many people here. You know, like it's we're what 2 years into a game. Well, nearly 2 years,
Mm.
1.5 years, one and a
About
half
one and a
years.
half, I'd say now. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I am a massive boomer, absolutely. But yeah, it's nice to see that so many people are still about and still enjoying the content that we're all creating. It's great to see. So yeah,
Wait, Tia,
shout
how
out to
old are
everyone.
you?
I'm 33.
33. Okay, I'm gonna be 26, October
Hmm.
7th.
Mate,
It's coming
you'll
right
have
up.
got like I was probably like 30 when I felt like I was like partially grown up, if you know what I mean. Like you've got plenty of time. Like keep having fun, man. Like there's no rules, there's no regulations.
I feel like I'm gonna be playing games until I'm on my deathbed. Honestly.
But it's just the new generation, isn't it? It's nothing to to be part of. And I think like it's one thing to like just waste your life, just playing like games and never being good at something and not getting involved. But I think there's something more to say about the Trials community past the game itself. It's a very special thing that I have just not seen anywhere else. Like, it's not to say that I've
Yeah, me neither.
really gone looking, but I've just every time you go into other like games of streams and then you sort of hang around in those communities loosely and you just don't see the same that you see in the Trials community. So,
No, I see the
it's
most creativity and just the most competitiveness and
yeah, and the most maturity,
supportiveness.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
in this
maturity is
community.
really the thing that grabs me, like, even the young people who come into the trials community, like immaturity is not really accepted in the trials community, like, we just don't nobody vibes on that, do they, Like, we all like to have a laugh and a joke, and we like memes and, we can all, but I think the game Trials attracts a certain type of person anyway, so and I think that's why we all get along so well.
Hmm.
Um,
We all have a common goal, and
mm,
a common
yeah.
the
Yeah,
occurrence of
yeah,
like getting the frustration and just how hard this game is, and we can all kind of
absolutely.
back each other up with saying that's just like the frustration that we've all felt and that same like cohesive, that hive mind of like, oh wow, yeah, you've been able to beat this track, you've been able to get set this time, you've been able to beat a track on this bike, like you're insane.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
can
it,
kind of
that's
back
it.
that up.
Yeah, yeah. We've all got much common ground.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I see, Toasty's talking about the riddle. Um,
Oh yeah, should we discuss a little
yeah,
bit of that?
yeah, sure.
So
Sure, sure.
so if you could brief me on like I want to talk about like the riddle as a whole throughout the Trials series because I know that you
Yeah,
are a
yeah, yeah,
big you're a big
yeah.
member of that community and like
Yeah,
getting the
yeah,
riddle
that's
going
it,
and
that's it.
whatnot.
And like to just preface like my little talk about the riddle, it was actually the riddle in Evo that really like secured my place as being a Trials community member before. So the way I got into Trials was I'd played the very early Trials games in middle school and high school in our our IT lessons,
Hmm.
the mini clip type ones. So I'd already seen the game, the concept of it. And so I went to university. I wasn't a gamer. I didn't play games. I went out and partied and shit like that. Like, being a gamer wasn't really a thing back then. And if it was highly frowned upon. Like, and certainly nobody was making money from it. So I'm not a gamer at all. And I move into a house with 6 other lads who all have Xboxes, who all play Trials HD. So obviously, naturally, I just start having a go. Um, so I'm playing Trials HD, and I think, yeah, this is good fun. I don't take it seriously at all. Um, and then Trials Evolution came out, and it was such an improvement on the physics that, like, it was actually like way more enjoyable than
Hmm.
Trials HD, in my opinion. Anyway, like Trials HD, I'm sure if you were there at like the very first day it came out, I bet it was great. But like as soon as Evolution came out, it was just like, well, that's clearly not the finished product, is it? Like,
Yeah, HD was
you
the one that I started into,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I got
So
obsessed with that because of how difficult it was. It was like the hardest platform game I'd ever played during that time, so that's
yeah,
why
see,
I
'cause
started with HD.
because I wasn't a gamer, I had no other reference to how hard it was, and I honestly didn't find it that hard. Like, when I first picked it up, I think, like, the first time I played, I may have got a few faults on a medium difficulty track, um, but I soon picked up the idea of the game. I've when I have played other games, they've always been the Trials sort of, simple to play but hard to master,
Hmm.
so like Guitar Hero was a game that I'd played and really, really enjoyed because the concept's really easy, but it's very hard to get good, you know?
So this group of guys that you were played
Yeah.
trials with, so were you all getting into the riddle? Like when did you like first
No.
realize about that?
So like they just told me about that. Like there was a couple of them who were quite into because they were like childhood friends. So like they were like really into like racing each other's times. Like
Okay.
everyone else just wanted a bit of fun, but they were like really into like getting each other's times.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted a part of that. Like I was like, well, that looks fun. Like he just shouts up to his room. He's like, I've just beaten you on this. Like, and then he'll jump on and like play it for half an hour and he'll go, I've now beaten you on it. And it just looked like, something fun to get into. So basically, a bit of time went by and I found out about the riddle. They told me about the riddle in HD. And like at the time, it had already been solved. Like everything had been found. So like I couldn't be a part of it. But I certainly went back and looked at everything and was like, that's really cool as well. So not only did I have this like new competitive thing that was like really attractive, there was also this like really nice research based thing like to do with the game as well. And so Evolution comes out, they instantly buy it. I play it and I go, that is insane. That is so good. That game is like brilliant. So I just go out and buy an Xbox, I buy Evo, and I start playing. I start just competing against, my housemates. And then I decided to just go on the forums one day to just see if there was anything more about the game like there was before. Like I didn't really know that like a riddle was going to be a thing, but I just thought, oh, I wonder if there's like any of that hidden stuff that was in the other game. And obviously I found the riddle post on the forums and found that they'd made a little bit of progress, and I just joined from there really. And like the rest is history. Like that was my cementing. So the Trials Evolution riddle is what cemented me into the Trials community. Because
What even
without
was
it,
the riddle for Evo? I don't even know what the riddle
so
was.
the riddle, it's way more complicated
I
than
know
I can
there's
just
like
like wrap
so
it
many
up
different
in.
subsections to it. Like if you just like
Yeah,
a really
that's it.
brief overview of like
Yeah,
what exactly you were trying to
so
find.
essentially in tracks are hidden like items, and they're usually just like philosophical things that like point to like something from history or an important person or stuff like this and that, and it's all sort of related to sort of history, time, physics,
Mm-hmm.
science. It's all very philosophical and theoretical and that sort of thing. So you're finding all these artifacts in the tracks, and you're just sort of trying to piece them together. It's more of like, it's not like a dot to dot treasure hunt. It's more of like a mind map where you have like the word riddle in the middle and then everything like shoots off from it,
Mm-hmm.
And so then you spend your time sort of researching all those ideas and you find out what these things are, and you're trying to like sort of get a picture, piece them together in some way. And then the DLCs come out, and you then get this element where there's like something to figure out. There's some encryption involved. So basically, Anti hid throughout certain tracks a load of boards that had encrypted messaging on them. And when you put them all together, you got a big message, right? And the guy Murdoch Locke, can you recognize that name?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've talked
Yeah,
to him a
yeah.
lot before.
So yeah, Murdoch Locke, he managed to brute force the encryption without the key. So we never actually found the key on our own. It wasn't until years later that I think Fat Shady did a video about how the key was actually supposed to be found. But basically, Murdoch Locke ended up breaking the encryption, and that sent us on an in real life treasure hunt to find like some real things.
Yeah, and you guys were have to travel all around the world for
Yeah,
like some of these
sure. Yeah,
sections.
yeah. So, like, for example, like, I wasn't mobile at the time, so I couldn't get anywhere in my country, but there was coordinates that pointed to a place in, 200 miles away from my home. So the night that we discovered these coordinates, I rang up like all the local taxi companies to this place, and I was like, you can imagine me on the phone going, "Yeah, I was did quite an odd request, but like I'm doing this, I'm doing this riddle, and there's a box that's hidden in a graveyard right near your
I
town."
swear I'm
Like,
not
and I
digging
was
up
just
bodies.
wondering,
I'm
yeah,
not
and I was like,
grave robbing, I swear.
Yeah, exactly. You can imagine what the responses I
it'd be an
got when I was
awkward
like,
situation to
you know,
try to run
"Oh,
into.
could you send one of your drivers to go and collect it for me and then post it to me?" Like, and I'll pay you 200 quid or something, you know, like, I'll make it worth your while, like, and they were just like, "You're having us on, lad, like, jog on," you know? So that never materialized. Somebody else managed to get there, you know, and they got the key. But yeah, basically there were 4 keys hidden throughout the world. I think there was one in Helsinki in Finland, one in Bath in England, one in Sydney, Australia, and
Oh,
another
wow.
in, God, I'm gonna get this wrong.
So did
Oh,
Professor Fat Shady end up getting the one in Sydney?
there was one in America. Yeah, no, I don't think Fat Shady has it. No, I think someone else does.
Oh, wow.
Mm. Um, I think Morphy Boy in the UK is the one who's got it. Like, he had a friend who lived nearby who went and got it for him. And he's you know, he's hell bent on making sure his kids inherit it, and like they go there and they make sure that like it wasn't for nothing.
So on top of getting these keys, were there any other sorts of like prizes, like any other sort of consolation that
So
you'd get
the
received?
in the keys were obviously purported to unlock a box at the base of the Eiffel Tower on the first Saturday of August in 2113. So that's your prize for the 4 keys. The one in Finland, Helsinki, the guy had to go to some game studio office and like ring a number and like say some code, and then like someone just came out and like handed him a box. Like, it was really weird.
What the hell?
Like, yeah, and like then he got some more coordinates and had to go find another buried box, and he got handed some like really old papers, some paperwork, which we think is to do with some sort of land registry or some sort of land receipt or something like that. There was also a antique pocket watch in there with some inscription on the back of the case. Um, and there was something else. I can't remember what the something else was. There was a little plaque in each box as well, that had some words on it. Again, you can find all this online mostly. It's been obviously like, you know, near on a decade since the Charles Riddle, the Evo Riddle. So obviously my mind's a bit foggy on all the ins and outs, but that's roughly what happened with the Evo Riddle, and it was insane. It was mind blowing to think that this little game, you know, this little niche motorbike game, would have that much effort put into it in that regard. You know, part of the game that 99.9% of the players are never even going to see. You know, um, to think that that was in there. So I was just hooked. I was utterly hooked. And so, like, you know, the sort of speed running side of things came from when the riddles got solved. It was like, right, well, I'm invested in this game now. What else can I do in it? So that's when I then became a speed runner, or, you know, wannabe speed runner. um, so yeah, so we had the Evo Riddle, and then Fusion came out, and there weren't really, you know, there was nothing comparable. Like, it weren't like there were these hidden artifacts in tracks that you could discover. There was none of that. But you had the Cindy squirrel dating game. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So like that is, we think, part of the riddle. Like, that is just a part, like a storytelling part of the riddle. Like, you know, we're not really sure how it all links up yet. We think that, like, you know, we're going to have to obviously get to the conclusion of the Rising riddle to understand the full picture of the HD,
Yeah, and how
Evo,
close are you
Fusion.
guys? How close are you guys to figuring out the
Well,
Rising one, you think?
right. So with the Rising one, we're at the point where we feel like we've unlocked everything, and there's one sign left to find on Gigatrack. I can explain a little bit about that in a mo. But essentially, we've now been told by Auntie, you know, Amber, the guy who does the riddle, that he's cooking up a hint, but it's taking him longer to cook it up. So, like, he's always very cryptic with his communications. It's never like straight up plain English that people can just understand. It's always like, you know, emojis, and, you know, like, you know, he seems like he doesn't know English. He definitely does. Like, he does know very good English.
Some broken,
But
yeah.
he's, you know, he's very contrived in his answers. So we then asked him, okay, so if you're having a time cooking up the hint, does that mean we stand any chance of finding it on our own? And he pretty much said, yeah, that's the case. Like, So I think most people will have probably seen or heard about the signs on GigaTrack, but there are 4 signs that are hidden. We know this because Auntie said in the GigaTrack preview trailer that one secret, 4 transfers into one. Okay, so we found a sign, and then we realized on the back of it, it had Morse code.
I know there's a
And
tandem one. Was that the tandem oriented
yeah,
code
yeah,
on
yeah.
that?
So there's one that says on the back of one sign it says sun, SUN. The second sign says 16. The third sign we've found says bring a friend, which we believe to be tandem. So what we believe is that there are 4 instructions hidden on GigaTrack that once you put those 4 instructions together, you'll be able to follow them and unlock the next stage of the Trials Rising riddle. What that is, we don't know. It might be the end of the riddle, you know, it might be the end of the Trials Rising and Trials series riddle. We don't know. But that's all hopes and dreams are focused on at the moment, is that very last sign on the GigaTrack, which Auntie has basically said you're not going to find on your own, and I'm having a hard time coming up with how to let you know how to find it, you know. So we're pretty much at a dead end at the moment. We're at a crossroads, not a crossroads because we don't know which way to turn anyway, but we're waiting on Auntie now, basically.
I know that there was a
Um,
bounty placed on it recently. Is there going to be any more bounties, you think, to like help figure out the riddle if
well, let's say,
people collaborate together?
so in the same sort of way, in the Evo riddle, when when the signs were put together and decrypted, it basically gave you some instructions to carry out on a track that then unlocked a song that had information hidden within the waveform of that song. It all sounds very complicated. Again, you can go and look into all this if you just Google Trials Evolution Riddle.
Yeah, you've had a bunch
Um,
of videos talking about it, right, on YouTube? So if
well,
people
I've
can,
all of my videos have focused on the Trials Rising riddle, because all the videos for the Evo riddle have been done, you know. But my plan is, once we have a conclusion to the Trials series riddle, I plan to invest in a proper, like, produced documentary about the whole thing, you know, where I'll be, you know, pretty ambitious, but we'll give it a go. You know, see if we can get it on Netflix.
yeah,
Um,
have your own original series
well, yeah, you know,
placed,
like I'm thinking like a one-off, you know, maybe an hour long.
a documentary
Yeah, where we,
talking
like, you
about
know,
all
go
the
off to
trials riddles.
Finland and interview Auntie and interview other people who were involved in, like,
That'd
the
be sick.
discoveries, and you know, like, I think that would be a good story to tell. That, you
Yeah,
know, like, people like to
definitely.
hear about it. You know, yeah, like a documentary with interviews. That would be so good. That's exactly what I'm thinking. And I'm an ambitious man. Like, you know, I'll give it my best. You know, T. Attenborough. And here we have a wild Auntie. Um, but you know, like, I think with the riddle, you know, it's obviously, you've got to remember that Auntie is just a person. You know, he's just a guy who has a game studio and the tools at his disposal to do something like this. You know, not many of us own a game studio where we can go, hey, I've had this idea, let's try this. You know, um, but you've got to remember, he is just a guy. He's not like some wizard or like some otherworldly thing. So I think that you know, we'll be looking at something like quite philosophical, and something, you know, just one man's thoughts, like one twisted man's thoughts, you know, given to us through the medium of this trials game. And, you know, even if you learn nothing at the end, you've learned a hell of a lot along the way. Um,
Yeah, I wonder about like why he even creates these cryptic of messages for the Trials series. Like, have you ever heard anything about him? Like, talking about that stuff? Any interviews about like how
like,
he created these?
no. So, like, because it's quite unknown, really. It's quite an unknown thing.
And that's the fun of it, the mystery of like, why is he
That's
even
it.
making these? This is crazy how in depth they go.
Yeah, and also he doesn't, like, you know, he knows that there's a dedicated set of us, like, who are really on this, like, and like without us, his work is for nothing. So he owes us, like at the point where we're like, we literally have nothing to go on. We are utterly stuck. It's up to him to guide us. We don't want him to go, oh, just do this, but we need some guidance. So, in terms of like asking him, we're not asking him any other question apart from how do we progress in a fair way that doesn't mean you just hand us the answer,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, he doesn't talk about it in any way. Like we've talked to the devs, and they're like, he never talks about it in the office. Like it's very compartmentalized, and there's NDAs involved, and like the people who work on the tracks are all under NDA anyway. So it's a very locked down thing. I think he's a smart guy. He's not, like I say, he's no wizard, but he's a very smart guy who can figure these things out given the time. And like I say, I think that we know for a fact that when like the things are built into the tracks, like I think the process goes, he asks the track devs to put in the mechanisms to unlock the things, and then he puts in the thing that gets unlocked. So that like you've got like a team who know the methods, but they're a tight knit team who aren't going to share it, but they don't actually know the messages that are being hidden. So I think he's got it on lockdown, and there's no way to like, the reasons why will become clear when we've finished it, I think. Because, maybe the reasons why will become clear is part of the answer,
Mm-hmm. Toasty's thinking he's a fan of cryptography. Also find new ways of incorporating entertainment into the game, and I like that kind of theory.
Yeah, that's it. So I think he is just very interested in these things and has a, ultimately when you look and you think like,
and he has a pretty big fan base too. That's really backing it up. That really wants to follow through.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a dedicated fan base that will like keep going, like no matter what giga track given. In terms of like being a fan, like that's exactly it. He's got the platform, and when you think about like what's his job, he's the creative director. That's exactly his job, is to just sit and think, how can I make this game more enjoyable? How can I give it more elements, more dimensions? That's just his job. So he's done a really good job of it, and there's a bit of me that's like really looking forward to like Red Lynx's next project. Like I'd love them to be working on a Trials game. I'd love them to be big enough that they could be working on a Trials game and other games as well. But I think I'm keen to see what they've got next, if they've still got Anti at the creative helm, because I think even if it's a game completely unrelated to Trials, which it probably will be.
Yeah, I heard some rumors actually.
So I'll be interested in those rumors, but what I'm interested in is Anti going to put a Riddle in another game? So I'll always go and give Anti's games a go, and I will always look for something strange.
Maybe an RPG game. It would be perfect to have some sort of Easter eggs, because that's what
maybe,
the rumor was.
Maybe
a free to play.
I think I've looked at a lot of other games. I look at the Call of Duty Easter eggs and the Grand Theft Auto Easter eggs. For me, what does the Trials Easter egg is not only like how elaborate it is, but it's the fact that it's on a motorbike game. Like there's no riddles in Forza, is there? Like there's no riddles in
not that I
Formula
know. I don't know
1.
that series at all. No.
I'm just calling out generic racing games.
Oh, also Blub's here. Welcome, Blub.
Hey, Blubs, what's up, bro?
Just late or early, depending on how you look at it. Jeez,
it's late for Blubs. Yeah, it's like half midnight.
Yeah, what other racing games have riddles though? Like I can't really.
Exactly.
Mario probably has like a bunch of Easter eggs in it, but
again, like so,
that's more platforming,
so
not racing.
Like I always see the videos on YouTube by like the big guys, like the Easter egg hunter, like great guy, great videos. But I just like, please don't call my riddle or our riddle, an Easter egg. It's just way beyond that, like it's way beyond just a few little snippets. It's like, it's so well constructed and it's so well presented, that I just think you do it an injustice to call it an Easter egg. But yeah, like I say, you'll find other little Easter eggs in racing games. But for me, it was just like, because it's like the juxtaposition between what you're doing in the riddle and like speed running a track. They're just so wildly different. that when you're bored of speed running, you can go have a go at the riddle, and when you're stuck on the riddle, you can have another go at speed running. It's sort of, it's very handy.
So what's been the best riddle in your opinion out of all the Trials games so far? Like, which one have you enjoyed the most?
Evo, obviously,
for?
but it's because we can't really say until
the Rising is done,
is concluded. But I've got a feeling that there's a little bit of me that thinks, why would you do anything less than what you did last time? Every time I do a Trials Records tournament, I'm looking for it to be bigger and better than the time before. So I'm, it's, I wonder if like we're going to be like going into another real life search. So it's hard to say. Like, obviously the Evo riddle, the HD riddle was the first thing that sort of opened my eyes to it, but it was just very philosophical. I think the fact that he managed to put together some sort of 100-year answer is insane. Obviously, I'll never know about it, but somebody might, and they'll think their mind will be blown as well. So at the moment, the Evo riddle stands as the champion and sort of like the original, but the Rising riddle could really blow it out of the water, So let's wait and see.
Yeah, this is so interesting to me. I never really caught up on all the riddle stuff, so I really appreciate you briefing me on like what's going on with all this stuff, because I've been out of the loop with this for a long time. All I've been doing is just ninjas, and then I've gotten into speedrunning finally this year. I've been getting into speedrunning much more. So having this other segue,
diamond videos.
Yeah, getting the diamonds on stream compilation going. It's been a ton of fun. But yeah, no, it's been quite a journey for me, and I know that you've been in the trial scene for such a long time.
Yeah, sure.
I know you've always been enjoying the more speedrunning oriented side of things, right?
Yeah. So alongside, obviously, like I was explaining earlier about the old forums, and like going there to see if there was any more I could learn about the game. Well, I learned about top tier speedrunning. I learned that there was a competitive edge to this game beyond what I had with my housemates.
Did you ever compete in any tournaments and stuff way back in the day?
No,
with Trials,
I wasn't good enough.
Evo,
I wasn't good
Trials
enough.
Fusion, nothing like that.
Like I'd say when Fusion came out, I was probably like happy with a top 500 run, maybe. And then like when Fusion came out, I was like, well, this is a chance to like get good on a new game that like I'm not like lagging behind. There'll be this, like the thing is when you come like to speed running and you finally get it, that's the thing I found with Trials is like you can get good at the game and get your way through it and pass tracks, but like there's just a day or a moment in time where you just go bang and you just go, yeah, I get it all now, like I can get all of this, like, and your attitude changes, or mine certainly did. And that was Blubby talking about my featured track when Evo Gold came out. It was awful.
You had a featured one. You had a speedrun track you made on Evo?
Yeah. It was just a really
where the hell are your tracks on Rising? Where are your tracks at?
I just like you become more of an adult, and just
it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy to build stuff, honestly.
And I'll be honest,
crazy.
I think the interface is terrible. Like, I don't think it's good for people who haven't got the time to spend hours to learn it. Like, but that's
I wish that there would be. I mean, we talked about this so much before. It's like I wish there was some implementation in the game where it just went through a detailed walkthrough, kind of like what Swamp does with his YouTube tutorials, but have that in the game itself and talk about all the basic. There's like 30
absolutely.
different types of categories that are talked about on YouTube.
Isn't it? It's mad. Like, and I'm a computer scientist, by my education, so I get all the logic stuff. When I look at people building and I'm looking at the logic tools they're using, I'm like, I can get all of that. But Jesus, if only I could figure out how to get to them, and then like the camera doesn't end up like pointing at the floor, and it's just for me, I just find it very frustrating to use. Like I find like
it's
lining pieces up is difficult, and it's really easy to just knock your entire track out of line, and all sorts of things happen when I try to build. So I just try to stay away. And
and going back to Seth, to answer your question about how many diamonds I'm at now, I'm at 152 diamonds, I believe now.
Wow, GG, bro.
So
GG.
we have progressed a ton this year.
Massive, man. Absolutely massive. That's huge.
Yeah, I've really gotten into it. And it all started when I became part of Wix tourney, when I was doing
Sure.
the the intermediate category. I'm kind of at that crossroads right now, at the point where I'm like, I'm getting I'm getting so many top plats. I'm like on the cusp of like consistently getting diamond medals. But
Yeah, it's
now
harsh, isn't it?
there is some
When you're so
really brutal
close.
tracks. There is some
Yeah.
really brutal tracks
Yeah.
that I've been getting into now. And the previous one, or the most recent one that I did, was Medieval Flare, and
Wow.
that track I thought was the
That's
hardest
hard.
platinum medal,
Yeah.
first and
Yeah.
foremost.
Yeah, that's a hard track. And you know that, like, any of the because that's a Rhino track, isn't it?
Actually, it's turned into a scarab track.
Oh,
I've been convinced that it's actually a scarab track, because
did you do it on the Scarab?
No, I did not. I did it on the Mantis.
Ah, you did it on the Mantis.
So
Well, I was well off then. But Blubs, did you set the diamond on the Rhino, or was it Mantis?
But
Hear
what I
from the man
saw on the
himself.
leaderboards, everybody was like, "Oh no, Jitters has this cracked out run where he hits like the craziest time savers that you can't do on any other bike," and he still screws up the battering ram section. He doesn't even get through that part correctly. Like he gets stuck like right before the battering ram, and then he isn't able to take that and go through the door. He has to go underneath it. And
Sure,
he'd be able to take off a second or two at least from doing that.
Yeah, that's it. I was watching him trying to go for it, but when he was doing it on stream, and I didn't see him hit it, but he was doing some hairy slides at the end there.
Yeah.
Oh, so Blub says he did it on both. Wasn't sure which one was faster at the time. Was in 0.1 of both bikes. Yeah, fair play, man. Cheers for the insight.
I really like that that it's possible to hit some nasty runs on multiple bikes. I think that the variety is pretty cool to witness and try.
There is a slight bit of balance, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
There is just a slight bit of balance between some tracks, and then other tracks is just like, yeah, good luck. But yeah, just like I just want to come back to like how I actually got into speed running, like on a on a more sort of, I want to get top 100. Like that was a thing. I realized that was a thing after discovering the old forum where people used to post their world records, and then somebody would like update like a Google Docs spreadsheet, like and so after seeing that, and then people would post, so I can't remember who recorded the Evo videos. I forget his name. But he would record all the videos and upload them, and I'd just like always like watch them instantly as soon as they came out, just be like, oh, somebody's got a new world record, like, and I was just hooked, and I just thought, well, I'm going to give that a go, and then just realized really quickly that shit, you have to be good to like get world records.
Yeah, you have to have such an understanding of the bike and the tracks and like just the positioning. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Just all
it's another level. Yeah.
All the intricacies that go into speedrunning compared to ninjas, it boggles my mind, just because of like I've been doing ninjas for 3.5 years now, like exclusively almost, and then this past year I've been mixing it up quite a bit with speedrunning, and it's hard. It's really hard changing up your play style to it.
It is, yeah. You like, and it's it's one of those things that's like, you've got the skills to like do a top 100 time or whatever, wherever you find yourself in the leaderboards, you've got the skill to do it. It's all about really that determination to sit there and get the muscle memory to actually be able to pull it off, isn't it?
Yep, exactly.
It is a fact that when you look at the very peak of trial skill, like you have like thousands and thousands of hours played, like just doing the same stuff over and over again. It sort of stands to reason that you really do. And it's not to say that there's not an exception to that rule. There'll be people who come through and put in very little time and get insane runs. But on the whole, like I think that you reach a point where it then becomes like the time that you put in, like it's sort of an attitude thing as well. It's not to take away anyone's skill, because like I say, it's mad, but I think you can develop it. And I think like proof, like that you can do insane stuff, like given the time and practice. Like I wholeheartedly think that there could be people who could compete with me on the shopping cart. They just they're just not motivated to put the time in. I have played that for 8 months. Like, it's all I've played is shopping cart. And especially since they added the leaderboards for each bike. Like, I have not touched the Mantis. Like, I just haven't.
And why do you enjoy the shopping cart so much? I actually wanted to
Right.
talk about this just a tiny bit
Yeah,
earlier. It's like,
it's
why'd you
such
get
an
into
easy.
it, and how did you get so damn good with it? Like,
Right.
what the hell?
Okay. So the first part of the question is so easy to answer. It literally like creates a whole new game. Like, so they release, you have the donkey bike, the BMX, you have what other weird bike did they bring out first? They brought out the turtle and the
The
alpaca.
alpaca, yep, the front wheel
Yeah.
drive is probably my favorite gimmicky bike out of everything.
Yeah, sure. And I don't think it's terrible. I think it's, like, you got it with the DLC, and I had a go with it on most of the tracks, I think. But for me, they all just slightly tweak the existing parameter of the game.
Mhm.
Whereas what the shopping cart does is just like introduce an entirely new concept, which is not only do you have to control the bike with the ground and the course below you, you also have to keep an eye on the rider.
Mhm.
And I just found myself going, this is quite fun. Like, this is quite challenging. Like, this isn't easy. Like, so I'll do what a trials person does when they come up against a trials, like a hard challenge. They'll go, right, I'll pass it, and then I'll get less faults. And I just found myself just finding that spark again that I found back, like, in my uni days when I was with my housemates, of just being like, this is something new to do. Like, this is really fun. And there I was. In terms of getting good, it's just practice. Yeah. The shopping cart, there's some things that you will come across if you want to, like, zero fault every track um, in the base game that it's unlocked on. If you want to zero fault every track, there's some things you're going to have to learn about the shopping cart that you will only learn when you, like, have passed them a few times and you're like, oh, it did exactly that and only that one thing worked. And then you look at it and you go, well, what did I do? What happened? How was the rider sat? What movement did he do when I landed? Like, and you just have to start looking a lot harder than you would at a typical replay, where you're just like, oh, do they press left at that point and then they press right at that point? The shopping cart, because the rider's not attached, you'll find he turns into different positions, and there's times where you'll come up to a track, and if you want to zero fault it and the rider's not in the right position, you just have to reset and you just learn it like you would, if when you're not going to hit a slide,
Yeah,
and
like if you
you'll
don't hit
get
the proper
halfway through.
slide, yeah, exactly. You don't hit the
That's it.
squish right. You don't like instant grip and like climb
Yeah.
up the wall
And
and do all these
put your
small moves that maybe the typical rider wouldn't notice. But then when you spend enough time with it, you just get a feel for the bike and the
Exactly that,
tracks
exactly
itself.
that. So, like, put your shoes in a brand new player's shoes. They wouldn't even know what a slide was, let alone know how to control it or what to do with it. They would make them happen from time to time. Some slides happen by accident.
Mhm.
But they wouldn't know what they were. They wouldn't know how they improved their time. They wouldn't, just wouldn't understand it. And it's the exact same for the shopping cart. Yeah, we all understand the Mantis and the Rhino and typical riding just because we've spent the time. Yeah. That's a great story to tell. We'll
Yeah,
talk about
ours.
that
I
in
was about
one
to bring that
second.
up. The canyon crash.
Yeah. So with Canyon Crash, so at this point, I'd just been playing with the shopping cart. I had no idea of its potential. I'd just been playing tracks. I'd already played Canyon Crash, just played it once, got through it, probably got messed up by the explosions and just carried on. But Canyon Crash isn't really a fun track. Like, it just got completely ignored. So I was taking lots of time and playing lots of other tracks and getting a lot better with the shopping cart. And then one night, a friend of mine comes round, and I'm sat eating my dinner, and Trials is on, and he grabs the controller and starts playing, and he just randomly selects Canyon Crash. So I'm sat there eating my dinner, he's playing, and I think, oh, I'll just show you how it's done once I've eaten my dinner, mate. So I wolf my dinner down, and he passes me the controller. Well, I think it was Cripple's Ghost that was on there. There was like 2 other people, but I didn't recognize them. But Cripple's Ghost was on there, and I was thinking, I was keeping up with it, and I was getting well ahead of it just on like the random runs
and
that
does
like
he
I
have
was showing my mate.
Does he have a pretty
And I was,
solid diamond on that track?
what, me? I
No,
don't think.
Crip.
Yeah, Crip had a diamond. Yeah, he had diamonds.
Okay.
And so I'm there, and I'm going, well, I was just like, I was like off screening them, and I weren't even trying. Like, and I was just thinking, what's going on
was
here?
just coasting it out, just easy peasy for you.
Yeah. So I looked at my mate, and I went, do you know what, mate? I think I can fucking get a really good time on this track. I was like, I reckon I could get top 100. And so literally on my first run, like after realizing that if I put, if I actually focus and put some effort in, I could do it. I think it was like my 3rd run or something. I was top 100. And then like by the end of the night, I was like 25th or something like that. And I was just looking and I was just thinking,
wow,
I'm going to see what Wizzolo's Ghost is like. And then when I was just like with him all the way, like I was like, right, well, I know I can go a little bit faster there and a little bit faster there. And then, like, I think it was like 6 hours of grind the next day. I had the world record by like nothing, but I had it. So
and
yeah, that's the story
that,
of randomly finding out that the shopping cart could get a global world record.
yeah, that's incredible. When did you start to figure out like you could fling yourself out of the cart and just like destroy checkpoints?
Yeah,
especially the ending of Canyon Crash. You could just fling yourself out and get to the finish line. For anybody that didn't know, it doesn't matter if your body's out of the cart.
I'd always known that you could activate and, finish the track by flinging out, because there was at one time when I first started playing, the sort of billboard sign that falls over in one man's trash. It's sort of like in the middle of the track. Maybe
yeah, I think so.
8.
I haven't played that track too much. I haven't really grinded that one at all. That's actually the next grind
that's a tricky track. Very
I should
hard.
do for a
Yeah,
diamond.
very hard. I'll be waiting for the YouTube video on that one, lad. But on that track, there's a very, very insane jump to get in the middle. And like when I first started playing, I thought the only way you could pass that track was to fling your rider to the next checkpoint. Turns out you can clear it, so that's fine. But I'd already known about flinging. I just there was somebody who came into my stream before I'd got the world record. I think it was the guy Romanu. You
yeah,
may
that sounds
see
familiar.
him on. Yeah, he's about, and he's not bad in the shopping cart. I think he's actually 2nd after my non-fling run. So I think he's 3rd on Canyon Crash in the shopping cart globally, but still a 2nd off, I think, or like he's a long way off. But it was him who said, "Oh, you can fling at the end and it saves like 0.8 or something." So like, I knew about it, but I was like, no, I can get this world record without exploiting this weird mechanic. And what I wanted to prove was that I could do it with pure riding rather than like using this thing that other bikes can't do. So what I wanted to do was stay in the car and have like all 4 wheels on the ground as I went over the finish line for my first world record, just to prove a point. And then like a few days later, I just went on there, done a fling, and like, instantly it was a 2nd faster. So, rip that run.
Good on you. Yeah, rip the regular T-Hill, fling hill for the win.
Yeah.
Oh, Toasty, you gonna get out of here? All right. Hope to
catch you
later,
later,
next time, Toasty. Thanks for chilling out with us in the podcast.
Have a good one. Yeah. But yeah, to just answer Toasty, I'm really not into ninjas. I've played the Red Links ones, and every now and again when I go on Track Central, if there's like a really good level 1 in the screen that I happen to get randomly shunted onto by Track Central, then I will play it. Like I can pass Greenbelt. Is that a 3? Is there bits of it that are 3? Or is it a 2?
It's like really debatable whether it's a 3 or a 4, because like people question like
I don't
whether
think it's a 4, is it? Green's not a 4.
It's like really borderline. I don't know. People say that blue is easier than green.
Well, I can't pass checkpoint 1 of blue, and trust me, I've tried. Like I can't even get up onto the little, the little platform to do the back wheel hop.
Yeah.
And I can I think I got up to the last checkpoint of green in like 100 faults or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I think green is like, for me, I was worried that it could have been a hard 2, like that things have got so insane these days that you're like, yeah, well, that's a hard 2.
Yeah,
Like,
honestly, I'm terrible with guessing the ratings of like tracks from I think the 1 to 3 anymore,
mhm,
because I'm like
yeah,
I've gotten onto tracks that are just
yeah,
so
yeah,
cracked
yeah,
out, and I just have to get so
exactly.
consistent
Yeah,
with stuff that
that's
it's
it.
really hard for me to tell. So I gotta have like a consensus with a lot of other people on
Sure,
like
sure. And then exactly,
people that are
I'm
getting
in
into
no
that
position.
difficulty. So it's really
Like,
tough.
I'm in no position to be like telling people what level a ninja is. I've got no idea. Um, so yeah, like ninjas for me, like I just like I get frustrated quite easily. So when I'm then faced with like this
Mm.
wall that like I genuinely just like am just like wheeling up and just falling off. Like I can't do it. Like Giga Track, like it screwed me over more times than anyone's been screwed over by any other track in Trials history. But it was a different screw over almost every time, like in a different place, in a different way. Like so, it wasn't this repetitive. Like I'm hopping into a barrel like 100 times before I get across it. I don't have that in me to learn past that. Like I have it in me to grind this weird challenge that's like more endurance, but like when it comes to like doing the same things over and over, like I can't break through that barrier to get good, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I used to be really hell bent back in the Fusion days and just trying to pass the hardest tracks for myself. In particular, my biggest challenges were probably um, Front Wheel God and then Makalu. So getting over that hump and passing my first level 6 was extremely hard, and I was very
Mhm.
stubborn. And I still feel
Yeah.
like I'm still pretty stubborn, like even when I'm attempting these speedrun tracks. But the mentality that I have is like, oh my gosh, I've spent so much time on this track. Why should I quit now? Like I've invested so much time and effort into it that and it turns out to make the passes and getting those diamond medals and whatever the challenges are that much more rewarding for you when you can really sit down with something and say, oh yeah, this was like the hardest challenge for me that I've
Yeah.
ever tried
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
accomplish on trials or in gaming in general. Like all my accomplishments for gaming, I would definitely say that trials have been the greatest accomplishments, and that's why I've been so obsessed with this game for
Sure.
the
Yeah,
past
exactly,
years.
man. Yeah, yeah. Because it's hard, and it like the feeling you get like tonight, like it was, it wasn't like, the thing is my missus is in bed, so I couldn't scream the house down, which was a shame. Like, fucking
Yeah,
killjoy her.
whispering, "Get in, just get
Yeah,
in."
exactly. Yeah, like it wasn't, had I done it tomorrow morning, like that would have been very different reaction. I had to be a bit more reserved than maybe I would have been. But the feeling you get after you've put that time in, like, and people might go, "Oh, well, that's a waste of time. What are you doing that for?" Like, well, but you do it for yourself, don't you? More than anything, you're not doing it for
Exactly.
anyone else.
Yeah.
I know that the shopping carts are mean to 99% of trials riders, but to me, like, I know how fucking hard it is. I know that I've done it. Like, I did it for me first. Like, I'm glad that everyone was there to see it and supported me, and love to everyone. But like, ultimately, I was only doing it for me. Like, my missus kept sitting there going, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" And I
That's what
was like,
my
"I
family
have
says to
to."
me all the time.
Yeah,
Why do you
and I'm
keep
just like,
playing
"I
that
have to."
Trials game? What is wrong with you? Why are you so
Yeah.
obsessed with doing this game?
Yeah, 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 and, like,
It's a
they've never done
challenge.
anything that's so challenging, but that's within your grasp, that's the difference. You can do it, and that it's a matter of time, and it's a matter of determination, and if you just keep going, it will happen,
Yeah,
like,
there's so many demotivating moments in our trials careers.
absolutely.
Um and I say all the time of like when you should, when you shouldn't take breaks. The moments where you have like these really grindy sessions and you're getting really frustrated and you don't accomplish the task, but you're still getting really good practice in. Um, there are moments where you should definitely take a break from it. Whether it
Yeah,
be a day, a week, a month, it could be even
yeah,
longer than that. There's
absolutely.
there's so many times where you need to take a step back and, just experience other things in life when it gets to that type of
Absolutely.
frustration. Um,
You've got to, yeah, like, get out, get some nature, like, I tell you what, boys
and it's
and girls.
inspirational too when you go out
Yeah,
and you experience
exactly.
other stuff. It helps me build actually quite a lot. It's very relaxing being able to
Yeah,
like
exactly, man.
pull up pictures
Nature.
from my phone.
Nature is like the cure to like the trials rage. Like I was at my fucking wit's end with Giga on you know, like at about 85 hours in, you know, and then I bought a kayak and I went kayaking for a week and I've come back, relaxed, got back into it and we've done it, you know. So like yeah, like for me it was like just get out, you know, have a break at the right time and it like, you know, yeah, you just do need a break when you're doing that hard stuff, you know. If you're just learning the game, like that's enough motivation to just keep playing and that's enough to enjoy it because you've got so much to learn. But when you do get to the top in your field, it is painful at some points. Um, so yeah, yeah, I feel you there, Dowie. Feel you
Yeah,
there,
and,
man.
and that's a reason that I've switched over to a lot more speedrunning as of recently because there aren't that many like high level ninjas to really be grinding out currently on Rising. And I had a pretty rough session on Fusion actually my last stream that I had. And I'm
Yeah,
just like, all right, I'm just gonna take a breather from Fusion again for a while. I had a really good run going on Fusion for this summer. I finally passed Sabotage, which was
yes,
a huge accomplishment for me. So I'm really proud that
absolutely.
I was able to finally, you know, be uh
No,
be in that caliber on Fusion for
yeah.
once in my
That's
life.
it, man. That's it. You that's another great feeling is to like to enter the realms with other people who are already considered like great, you know? Like that is a wonderful thing. So um I keep saying to people like people ask me when like, you know, they hear about or you know, they find out about my trials community, our trials community, what we do, you know, trials in general it you know, like, you always get this sort of, like, puzzling look of, like, you could have put all that effort into something else, couldn't you? Like and I just think, like, as long as it makes you happy, like, it's effort well spent,
Yeah,
you know? And even
my
if you
thought
have to go
exactly.
through some unhappiness to get there, like, it's worth it.
Hey, if
Like
there aren't any bumps in the road in your life, you're not doing it right.
exactly,
That
that's it. So, you
gotta
know,
have
the
some
same for
struggles.
trials, you know? And like Dowie says, take a break, you know, have some time off.
Gotta be able to persevere and really and push yourself. Whatever it is that you do, gaming,
Yeah,
life wise.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that a lot
Yeah.
of the skills that we pick up on trials can transfer over to our daily lives and just like how uh how we can really push ourselves to be better at whatever it is
Yeah,
that we're
yeah,
doing,
yeah,
whatever
like
challenge that we face.
the perfect analogy really, isn't it? Like you could take a ninja track or a hard speed running track and you break it down into obstacles and you tackle them one at a time and you get through each one and find a stumbling block and you figure out how to get around it and you're determined to get to the end and that ladies and gentlemen is your life. Just like, you know, break it down little steps one by one to succeed. Off you go.
So what other methods do you implement? What do you do whenever you feel demotivated? Other than just
Uh,
taking a break, like what helps you re-inspire you?
For me, it's like the community. I see other people like having a lot of people like chatting in their stream, and like I'm a real social person, but I don't like you know I love being social, just sat in my house, like and not having to deal with like you know all of the nuances of like being an adult in the modern world, being social with all the obligations. Like you know, it's you know that for me is what motivates me is to see like Scotty's stream doing well, Doey's stream doing well, like everyone's stream doing well, and then I'm like, I want to be a part of that. Like, so I'm gonna like find something to do in trials that gives me enough fun, but really I'm just here to like get involved and just have people to chat to and learn something that I might not have learned. And you know, it's this yeah, it goes way past just the game for me now. Like, you know, I've invested, you know, what like a third of my life into trials, you know, like I can say like, you know, maybe there's, you know, in the last 10 years I have consume some sort of trials content every single day. You know, whether it be check a Discord, whether it be play the game, whether it be watch a video, watch a stream, like every single day for the last 10 years. Like trials has been in my life, you know. One of the reasons my ex left me, she's a right bitch, but one of the reasons was because I spent too much time in the community, you know.
And she didn't appreciate for you for
yeah, I
like
mean, fuck her.
how
Like, yeah, like we don't need to make any excuses for her.
yeah,
She's
no,
just a heartless bitch.
she didn't appreciate trials. Now get her out. She needs to
Yeah,
go.
but you know, yeah, no love lost there. You
Yeah,
know,
no, that's
like
not worth it at that point.
good riddance. You know, my missus who's with me now, she's very supportive. For now, we'll find out. She might change her mind one day, but you know, for now, she's really supportive of what I do, and you know, she finds it
Do
fascinating.
you ever
Like
get
the
your missus
community that
playing
we
with you,
have.
like on tandem or anything like that? You guys ever have some?
Yes, until I like get so angry that I'm calling her a moron, actually making her cry, and then I'm like looking at myself. It's like you have an out of body experience, and you're looking at yourself, like calling your
Wait,
missus
what
a
have I done with my
CUNT
life?
for like
Yelling at my missus,
fucking up,
doing
you know, and you're
trials
like,
now.
oh yeah, you're like, it's not that serious. You know,
I'm happy to say that trials has become a very big portion of my life these past three and a half, almost 4 years. We'll be celebrating the 4-year mark. You know, in February, I think. I
yeah,
always like to
sure,
show off.
be a
I
good
have a highlight,
celebration.
or not even a highlight. I should actually try to edit this video, but I saved my very first trial stream into my
Wow,
Discord, and I want to do something with it probably for next year. I'll probably try
no,
to
that's
edit
good.
some
That's
pieces
really
up.
good, man. Like, I'm
Funny to
like
see that stuff always go
I'm
back.
literally the most or the least sentimental person you will ever meet. Like, I forgot my mum's birthday. She made a fuss of it. I told her to grow up. Like, I am the least sentimental person in the world. I have no idea when I started streaming. I have no idea. Like, you know, it's not to say that I don't forget like those really special moments. Like, I don't forget those, but like I don't take pictures of anything. I don't record anything. Like I delete all the stuff that I make and build, and like you know, my hard drive's empty. Like, and I've made loads of stuff like before Trials Records, and you know, I just yeah, for me, like I love to celebrate with other people for sure. Like, and I will celebrate your 5 years or whenever you want to celebrate. You know, I'm always up for a party, but for me, like yeah, I've never done like I say, I've got no idea when I first streamed. You know, I get all these clips and people make clips and obviously they get banned at the end of the stream now, don't they, if you've got copyright music in it?
Yeah, I've switched over to the Monster Cat stuff like exclusively
Yeah,
nowadays because
I,
of it.
I keep trying to, but like then I just think like because I have no sentiment about me, you know. I'm just like, well, if it's the best clip in the world, even if it gets muted and deleted, I don't care. Like, you know, I'm
It sucked for
just that way.
one in particular. I wish I would have kept this one, but it was the one that blew up on Reddit. It was the Bomb Battlefield one where it was like this impossible course where you had to slowly inch your way across
Yeah,
bombs,
yeah,
but
yeah,
actually
yeah,
at the
yeah,
beginning you could go backwards and like beat
yeah.
the course in like 30 seconds.
And
That
it
one
had
ended
those
up getting
bend over
deleted.
people in it.
So that was unfortunate.
Yeah, see, and I mean, that is just cruel. Like, but you know, like I feel bad for you, man. Like that's bullshit. But if it happened to me, I'd just be like, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it is what it
you know,
is now. I mean,
that's
we
it.
learn,
That's it. You
live and
know,
learn.
different folks, different strokes, and now, like you say, you've taken steps to deal with it. So happy days.
So we've been
Um,
talking a lot about like these goofy challenges on the card and whatnot.
yeah.
Speaking of goofy stuff, you ever played Blood Dragon before?
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Completed it.
let me hear your thoughts on Blood Dragon before I give you mine.
Well, let me tell you how like so excited I was the night that it came out. Like all of us would have been. And then let me tell you how incredibly disappointed I was the morning after. Like like I've been let down by a lot of people who are really close to me all of my life, but that really was like the one that stung the most. Like it really I was like, "Oh my god, what is this?" Like, what is this game?
So I'm bringing up Blood Dragon. For anybody that didn't know, I just had a stream, a complete stream with Blood Dragon. I went from,
Wow.
just starting the game all the way through. I did the extreme tracks. I unlocked all the keys, and yeah, it was like a 4.5 hour session, and it
Wow.
was kind of rough. It was pretty
Yeah,
brutal, if I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
I thought the
yeah,
bike is probably, it's like some combination of like using the squid
yeah,
and some other tank that you can
yeah,
hardly move around
yeah.
in.
You got that eight-wheeler thing.
Yep, you got the
Like,
8-wheeler, you got the minecart, which I actually enjoyed. You might like the
well,
minecart sessions a little
well,
bit more,
I
because
was I thought about it like a few weeks ago when I was playing the shopping cart. I was
kind
like,
of like the cart.
I don't remember if the rider was stuck in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't think you could
Like
fall out of
held
the
in.
cart when you went those the
But
levels in that.
when it did enter my mind, it came into my mind. I was like, oh yeah, there was that minecart in Blood Dragon, and I was like, I can't remember if you were stuck in it or not. But then what I thought was, if that was the early, you know, predecessor to the shopping cart, then hey, I'm all for it. Like, if it was if they were like, when they were going, oh, what bikes can we make for Rising? And, somebody went, well, we made that mine cart. Well, we can't have a mine cart because you need tracks. But what about if we had a shopping cart? Like if that was the sort of inspiration, perhaps, then yeah, I'd need to have that confirmed. But yeah,
Yeah.
like that was, like it was those parts of the game that like it was like the running and shooting and jumping that it just isn't Trials. Like
Yeah,
you
you
could have had
cannot go into this game thinking it's a regular
like
Trials game at all. That
the
should be at the
shooting on the
way back
bike.
in your mind.
When you're on the bike and you can shoot on the bike, that's fine. Even the grappling hook, I think, is okay, right?
There's actually
Where like
somebody that created a track like that on Rising, and I was getting so frustrated. I didn't know how to use it at all, and
no,
it's just like the one from
yeah,
Blood Dragon.
yeah,
They got
yeah,
the same idea
yeah,
from
yeah.
it.
Like again, I think like that game lacked polish. Clearly,
Hmm.
you know,
The
I
voice
think.
acting was piss poor.
Oh, it's cringe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's so
very
bad.
cringy. It's
Like,
so bad it's good in some aspects of it.
like, and honestly, like I love Red Links like as an institution, like, and as the fact that they are like the foundations of our thing. But my God, like imagine like sat in the office like, and that's the product, and I just think you went from Evo and Fusion to that. Like, and I was just like, oh, like, is this,
Yeah,
is this
we're in an
Andy
alternate
going
dimension.
wild
Who
or
who even conceived of the ideas in that? But you know what? I don't want to shit on it too hard. There are
no,
some
no,
good
no, no.
aspects to the game. I really enjoyed the music to it. They put in Carpenter Brute, which is like one of my favorite like electronic kind of
Well, that's
djent
good.
playlists.
That's good. That's a positive.
So
There were,
very
yeah,
big positive for the
don't get me
music.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. There were elements of it that were absolutely great. The RC car, wonderful concept.
Yes, I thought of the
The
King
mine
Crab
car,
when I played
yeah,
that. The RC car. It was
yeah,
like King
yeah,
Crab.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Um, the minecart was great. Like, and I think like things like
I thought the
what other
level design
they
was
had
really
that
good. Like when you start at
what
the top of the skyscraper and you were like tripping balls and you're going straight down the
yeah,
vertical. I
yeah,
love
yeah.
that section.
Yeah, yeah, and there was some really great stuff that they were showing off, and I believe the game was made in the Trials editor. I believe. Um, I'm not sure. Maybe not. Probably not.
It just felt really
Um,
janky with the running sections that it
yeah, it was. Yeah,
feels.
it was just that bit that utterly killed it, and there was way more of it than there was like being on bikes or being on this, that, and the other. And there was a lot of things to shoot. So for me, it was like my problem is I can't play first-person shooter games. My eyes just end up watering. There's just way too much going on. Like, and you have to be so like switched on for that. And I got a vibe of that. It was like, oh, I have to like remember that there's something there coming that I have to shoot with a different button that I don't normally use. It
Yeah,
was all a bit, yeah. I weren't feeling that. Like, I respect that they tried something different. I didn't, I'd never want a Red Links game to be a flop because it doesn't fund them for another project. Um, but it wasn't my game. Like, I didn't love it.
yeah.
I
That's
paid for it.
that's why I
I've
made
got
it
it.
1,000,000 points on my channel. the
Did somebody pay it?
the community, yeah, it was a community goal. So what you can do is you can create these goals, and I learned about it for this first one. I'm not gonna make it 1,000,000 points for the next one because it took like 3 months, I think. But you
Mm,
could only contribute 2,000 points per stream if you make these community challenges on your points.
okay.
So just for future reference, if you
Okay.
ever try to make like some big community goal, um,
Mhm.
the next one we're thinking, I'm gonna play some Trials 2 or some Trials Second Edition, I
Yes,
think.
yes, play through that game. It is an absolute cap fest.
Yeah,
Like,
I've
it's
heard.
it's a laugh. It's where Trials comes from, and it is a great game. Like, and it was when I played it back in. God, I played it at my mate's house before a long time before I went to university. We played it so casually. I think we even pirated it. We didn't buy it. We downloaded it off the Pirate Bay. Um, so
I'm
yeah.
turning you in T.
Well, I know, like, 'cause you can figure I bought Blood Dragon, let's say, pinch for punch, um,
But like
like, so
alongside, if I was to do Trials to SE, would I should I do some other games alongside, like any other what other Flash games
mm,
would end up being alongside
well,
that game?
I mean, like, I would say, like, the real Trials that we know today started with SE, Trials 2 Special Edition or Trials 2, um, so, like, the mini clip games, like, they're very short and they're incredibly frustrating, and
That's perfect.
they're I mean, they are bad. They are, when you're used to, like, what we're used to, they are very bad. I mean, Trials 2 SE is bad enough, but, like, yeah, definitely give them a go. Give them a go. Why not? It's content,
Why
it's
not?
and
Yeah, if it's Trials
that's it.
related, I want to do it.
Exactly. If it's Trials related, you wanna give it a go, like, have a go, man. Have some fun. Like, it'll be a laugh. Set yourself a challenge, maybe you could put some channel points and, if somebody sees a difficult track, they can go, "Right, zero fault that then." You know? You know? 10,000 points or something, I don't know. Um,
lose more sanity than I've already lost all of it. So
yeah.
it'll be
Yeah.
fine.
So, yeah, that's it. You've got nothing to lose, have you? But yeah. So, yeah, try them all out, man, definitely. It's all part of the history and, you know, um, again, like, there was obviously no competitiveness, no leaderboards in the early games. Trials 2 SE, there were leaderboards, but I don't think, like, YouTube was a thing really. Um, I'm not sure when it came. I forget when it came out. Um, but it wasn't like it is today, where we've got a whole website dedicated YouTube to put all of the runs up on, and it's not, but definitely give it a whirl.
So did
It's
they ever have competitions for like way back in the Flash days, or did the competitions
no,
like
no.
tournaments and stuff start with like HD mostly?
I
Do you know?
think there was, like, there was probably some competitions in the, Trials 2 SE days. Like, Sandy would be the best guy to tell you exactly about the SE2
Sandy
days,
was
'cause
doing Trials to SE way back in the
yeah,
day.
I think so, and, yeah, like, it was, like, HD when, like, first sort of, real the global competitiveness, sort of really set in, um and then, like, I guess Evo was the first time that I don't know if Red Links put on a tournament during the HD days, because I wasn't really, like, cemented in the community. I was just starting to, like, look into it from the outside, being like, "Oh, is there a group of people over there who are, interested too?" sort of thing. So, yeah, it's, the tournament stuff all started really, I guess, like, really solidified when, um, Red Links done those big stage shows,
Yeah,
during the Evo days.
I was actually just watching a video. Somebody posted on Facebook. I can't remember who posted exactly, but I was watching it was the Trials World Championship 2013 on Evo.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's the one.
And I was
Yeah,
having a
yeah.
blast watching through that. It was about an hour long.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah.
recognized the names of TB and Saudi, End of Assembly, Blaze JP, and the Boss
Yep,
Hoss.
yep. Yeah, yeah. So the unfortunate thing then was that all the best players in the world were all under 18. Um, so, like, people like Venoms, like, I don't think he was old enough to go. Um, and,
Yeah.
like, your, obviously like Nova and Borads and Classy, they're all not at the forefront at that time. But I think a lot of the top players were under 18, so they couldn't take part. But we still ended up with a good lineup of people who, like you say, you recognise their names. Like they're not people who disappeared, And
Yeah.
it was good stuff, Shame they didn't do more. I think that perhaps like it was all like the sort of like wrong timing in terms of like the internet and streaming and stuff like that. Like I know 2013 is 7 years ago. Like we didn't have the platforms like we had, and I think if Trials had come 5 years later, it could have maybe had a chance of being like way bigger.
If Evo was to actually come out when Trials Rising came out,
Yeah,
like
if it was
it
like
would
a new
just
concept
yeah.
in 2020, like I
And we had
think
the
it would be
capabilities of
way.
streaming and like setting up a
Yeah,
lot more of these
that's it.
competitions.
Exactly. Yeah.
It'd be
You'd
massive.
you what you'd find is you'd be able to capture a lot of the initial audience that any new game would get, you know? Whereas because Trials, the core hasn't changed at all, like, I think you'll always get people come back and go, "Oh, I played Trials Evo, so I'll give Fusion a go," but then they might not give Ryzen a go because they thought Fusion was a bit meh. Um, so yeah, like I think if it was a new concept, yeah, like Blubby says, Borads and Nova weren't even a thing back then. But certainly at the time, I know like HD and Venoms
So the person
weren't.
who ended up winning the 2013 Evo was Zrodo or Zrodo
X-Rodo.
X Rodo.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like I've seen like track names with that name in it, like in Fusion or something. I have no idea actually who that writer is.
Well, he was actually the world record holder. All he used to do was grind Test Your Might. Like that's all he'd do. Like so, if he had the world record on Test Your Might, and if someone beat him, he'd get it back, and then he'd PB, and then he'd PB, then he'd PB, and then someone would beat him, and then he'd get it back, and then he'd PB, and that was all he would do. So really, he was incredibly consistent. He'd learnt that skill. And so really he needed to just get through against players who he was much better against. And then I think the finals came down to some extreme tracks,
Yeah,
if I remember
so it
rightly.
was between the Blaze JP and
Yeah,
X Roto,
exactly.
and they were
So
playing on Inferno, and
yeah,
X Roto had like a
exactly.
36-second run on Inferno, which was
Exactly.
insane on Evo.
Yeah. So look, Abby says the finals were literally test your might. And that's all X Roto used to do. I remember watching him stream. And like Twitch was a thing back then, because I think Blaze said he's been, like been streaming for like 7 or 8 years on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the early days. But yeah, all he would play is Test Your Might, like over and over again, and he would put in blasting runs every time,
That's
and then it like
dedication to it.
yeah, exactly.
Is all the Test Your Might pretty much the extremes?
Every base
That's all the
game
extremes?
extreme, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure. So yeah, so when the finals come down, so you basically had Blaze, who was clearly like a better player overall. Like if they'd have been playing on like beginner tracks, I think Blaze would have took it.
Was he
But
doing the any percent runs, like the full playthroughs
yeah,
percents back in
I
the Evo
think he
days?
started that. Maybe he was still no, maybe I think he was still grinding like individual levels. Like I don't think he was doing full game runs at that time.
Okay.
So he was still grinding levels, going for top times on Xbox 360 if I remember rightly. Before Evo Gold came out. But yeah, I think Blaze, like had they played on like a fairer set of tracks based on their both riders' experiences, then Blaze would have took it. But X Rodo, all he did was play Test Your Might, and when the finals are basically Test Your Might, then you're gonna win it like
He's
every
gonna have a
time.
great time on it. Yeah, I don't know about that format. I don't necessarily like that as much for the Track Central speedrun tournament, which I'm kind of hesitant on pulling the trigger because we're having a tough time actually getting enough people to participate in this one.
Sure.
But I like to have a variety of tracks throughout the competition. Like the first couple of stages or first rounds will be, like easy, medium, hard stuff
Yeah.
mostly.
Well, just to go over the not getting enough players and like pulling the trigger on it. What you perhaps you could do is just half the entrance. So if you were looking for 16, but you only got 12, you could go down to 8 for the actual tournament, and then you could have some like exhibition matches between the people who got left over. That's always an option if
Yeah.
you wanted to still go through with it. I think people are keen to see a tournament, a different kind of tournament. I won't say anymore.
Yeah, but the thing is with like setting up all the different types of tracks is that I like the format of the final should be a mixture of easy, medium, hard, and extreme, I think.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Any finalist should be able to handle an extreme track.
and I mean you've done that with the sessions tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Like you've kept
Yeah.
a pretty big variety. And I also wanted to ask you a little bit more about the sessions tournaments and like how did you get that idea like to do the 10-minute sessions and whatnot?
Okay, so it wasn't that I came up with the format first. I recognized a problem and then was like, what format fixes that problem? So the problem I recognized was that in multiplayer, it's just one shot, and it's always been like multiplayer's never been like smooth sailing on any Trials game. Like all it takes is one little glitch. What if the servers are mucking you around and like they don't get your timing right?
Or the spectating mode like just does not
The
even
spectator
follow the
mode is
writer
terrible.
at all.
But the biggest problem with multiplayer in terms of a tournament is that you get one shot. Like, and that's not the spirit of trial speedrunning. Like,
No, it's
the idea of trial
grinded for times.
speedrunning exactly is sitting down for an hour or two or however long you want, and going for that time. So essentially what I saw was that problem of like one shot in multiplayer being an issue, a big issue that means that like some genuinely really good players could get knocked out early on, which is not what you want in a tournament. I hate to say it, like, but you don't want the best players going out because of some janky system. Like, you want the best to be in the final against each other. You think if the World Cup was like Iran versus Ireland in the final, it would be awful. So with that issue, it was like, right, so you've got the issue where it's one shot and it's not in the spirit of speed running. Well, how can we create a tournament where you give people the chance to do what they normally do in trials? And so then I was just like, well, what if we just have like, a 1v1 for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 3 minutes or, just more than multiplayer as one shot, and that's it just developed from there. I just sat down on paper and was just like, right, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. Would that work? Looks like it will. Let's give it a go.
I have to say it's a brilliant idea, and it's spurred me and others to do these tournaments and stuff. So I really appreciate you sitting down and like starting up the sessions.
Yeah.
Do you know when?
Like,
do you have any idea when your next one might be?
So like I'm pretty certain that like governments will start shutting down countries again. So like at the moment, like you say, it's very hard to attract a player base. And for me, like trials records tournaments are there to represent, as many world record holders as we can, as many top riders as we can. It's not oh, you're not good at the game, so you're not welcome. It's not that. It's just like I say, in the World Cup, you're not looking to get, all of like the tiny nations of the world who could hardly put together a football team, let alone compete. It's not it's nothing personal. So that's the problem I face. Like, I did put out for the summer sessions and there was some interest, but again, like, it's nothing personal. It just wasn't enough interest from the people who will really make it, the show that it needs to be to compare to the previous ones.
Do you think we could ever set up some sort of World Cup for trials with these sessions tournaments?
I'd love to. Again, it's like, one, you need to incentivize people to play, and that's always a tricky thing. We
got to get some awesome trial swag, which is very hard to come by, and then we got to have a prize pool where hundreds of people hopefully would donate to. It's tough, but it's really important to incentivize. I agree.
That's it. So, it's hard to incentivize. Like I worked really hard on trying to get a sponsor and I just got nothing. I put so much work into trying to get like a legitimate like sponsor. Like COVID probably messed with that a bit. But that's really hard work. And it's like for me, it's got to really be worth putting that hard work in. It takes like, it takes a long time of planning. Like it's not something you can just go, oh yeah, we'll do that this weekend, lads. Like, you know um so yeah, the next one is relying on, one, having the sort of caliber of rider that I think trials records tournaments are deserving of. Um and you know and I think that relies on, the lockdown one was very successful because everyone was just shut at home, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
that's a fun thing to look forward to and to do. But the problem is everyone's been cooped up and their lives affected for so long that as soon as like a sniff of normality comes along, it's like, nah, I'm not sitting indoors. Like that
Yeah,
might
I'm
happen to
gone.
me again
I'm
soon.
going
I'm going out and doing
traveling.
everything I can that's not like things that you do when you're sat stuck indoors, so it's kind of like I get it, because like for all the summer I've been like, well, I ain't doing anything on trials records and I'm just enjoying the British sunshine, because that's a rare thing. um so
Hmm.
it's I understand it and it's fair, so it's like if another lockdown comes and everyone gets cooped up and nobody has to go to work and everyone's game, then we'll do another one. Like we organized lockdown sessions in like a week and a bit, 2 weeks, and that was very successful. So yeah, like it's not to say that there'll never be one again, but it really does rely on, our game having like a active top level playing scene.
Yeah, I agree. I think the future of speedrunning tournaments is it's so niche with this
Yeah,
community. So you have to have these world pandemics where people have to, really hunker down.
yeah, and where like something like, because like at that level, especially at the trials records level, like it's a sweaty thing to do. Like, Oris is in the chat, he'll tell you like the things he went through to place in the top scoring, in the prize winning place. Like you have to put some work in, you have to be good, you have to put the practice in,
Hmm.
and then you have to hold it together against like the best players in the world,
Hmm. Yep.
um so it's no mean feat either to take part. So like I say, you kind of have to, like you say, get a world pandemic to really like put success in the game that, in terms of like top tier speedrunners is struggling at the moment. I think everyone's a bit burnt out, and with no new tracks and no new content coming, you can understand.
Aris, well said. Never give up. Keep believing in your skill.
Yeah, that's it.
It's all you can do. Practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. So yeah, but in terms of what's coming next, like I think I can announce it. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it's all a goer. But we're looking at a Nova versus Jin Diamond percent race. There may be potential for Jitters to get in on it. I don't know. We'll see.
That sounds
Um,
amazing.
but yeah, there'll be like a race hosted on my channel in October sometime, we're hoping. It'll be a weekend day, so either a Friday or a Saturday,
Hmm.
probably a Saturday. But yeah, you'll all hear about it, get in the discords and you'll all know about it. You'll all hear about it, and it'll, hopefully happen. Both lads are game. I've got the funding for it. I don't expect them to do it for free, so they're getting paid. And hopefully that'll be, something for everyone to look forward to. Like my most successful trials video on YouTube is Jin's Diamond percent run. And it is like the best piece of content that I can possibly think of seeing in trials at the moment, is those two racing out every
Yeah.
single to diamond standard.
I
Like,
would love to see this occur at like a GDQ or something. I've thought
oh,
about
it'd be
like
insane.
a rate. We need
Yeah,
more races for
yeah,
on the big stage for GDQ, and to have you and other longtime members be able to commentate and like talk about all the
yeah,
intricacies to trials, because like I thought a Ninja percent run would be like really interesting. It's a pretty short session, but there's not a whole lot of support, I think, for the ninja scene as much as speedrunning is, because
Yeah,
speedrunning is where it's at.
I mean, like the problem with trials on those sorts of stages has always been that the people who go there make it look way too easy. Like, you know, I was talking to one of my guys in my stream earlier who's pretty new to trials, and like, you know, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to give this a go." You know, zero fault in, giga on the shopping cart. Like, I was just like, mate, I'm just really like making this look way easier than it is. Like, as everyone does in their own niche, you know. Um, and so that's always been the problem. But the difference is with a race, like it stops being about like each individual skill. Like it doesn't really matter. It's like the fact that they're both evenly matched in skill and that you're going to see a close race, you know. So I think you're absolutely right that
You want to see the
races.
competitiveness. Whenever I watch any, like, you know, the Mario speedruns, Legend of Zelda speedruns, you want the races to be very close to each other, and that's what makes it the most entertaining type of
Exactly.
event for you.
Yeah, you like, so it's like, you know, you don't mind seeing two mid-tier Super Mario 64 speedrunners go at it because it's not about the fact that they can't do every time saver. It's the fact that they're both going to go the same route and do the same thing, and it's going to be close, you know.
Yeah, and doing it
So I
in that
think,
environment, that live setting is pretty
yeah,
daunting of a
yeah.
task too, for sure.
So, so in terms of like trials moving forward, in terms of tournaments, I think we have to stop looking at like big player tournaments and start trying to look at more like finding rivals who can put on a good show between each other on a sort of more ad hoc basis. You know,
Hmm.
every now and again there's like a few exhibition matches or something like that. You know, that was, you know, I always knew that the trials, you know, it dies down because a game is taxing, and like with no new content and a, you know, a, essentially dying track central, like they definitely won't be able to brag the numbers like they did for Evo and Fusion in terms of tracks built and tracks played
I like
on
the
tracks.
I like the idea of you doing grudge matches more often.
That's
I
it.
think that'd be a
So
really good concept to like do that on like once a week, maybe every other week.
yeah,
Have
that's it.
Nova pit against Jin, have Blub facing off against Aris,
Yeah. But like
stuff
I
like that.
say, like that, but we can even go to like, like Price versus Tom Ward, maybe. You know, I don't know if they're closely matched enough, but you know, we don't have to, with the grudge match thing. It doesn't always have to be the celebrities, you know, of trials.
Hmm.
It can be people who are, you know, fighting it out for, you know, rank 90, you know, and 85, you know, and like it doesn't have to be all these top tier runners. So it would also allow other people to get involved. So, you know, like you could, you know, obviously we'll start with a diamond race, you know, and then like I say, there's always ideas I've got, and if people get at me to, you know, if people come at me and go, we want to see these things, then let me know, guys. Like, you know, it's like I say, this all takes a lot of work to plan. So
It does. It
it's
is quite the effort. I have
yeah,
to agree with you
yeah,
on that. I'm like kind of stressing out whether or not we're gonna have 16. I'm gonna add Blub on the list, so we should have 16 at this point. But
yeah.
yeah, I'll discuss that more in my Discord, definitely, about the situation, because I think I can add a couple more people onto the
Mhm.
roster for sure. Also, Hams and Atheist and Joe. I didn't say hi to you guys. Welcome to the stream.
Boys, howdy.
Howdy, howdy. Will I be streaming later tonight? No, probably not. I'm gonna be busy with my bro and a couple other buddies later tonight. But let's see. Moving on to
Yeah,
or
sure.
continuing on actually, with like the tournament environments. Um, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the most recent Larry's like ninja competition. Did you hear or see any of that happen?
Yeah. Like, what was the format? How did it go?
So the format was there anybody could participate in this. You just had
Yeah,
to give a heads up to Larry basically.
yeah,
There are points distributed for people that would stream. There are
yeah,
points distributed to people that were, getting into the top three um, for times, and it was more based on faults as well.
yeah.
But basically, the goal was you were playing 5 tracks that Slick made, and they all came out on the same day.
Ah, yes, I've been hearing about people. There's a lot of people who come into like the Trials Records tournaments and others and would say like, oh, it's like they all know the tracks, like so, like there's people who have been really after something like that.
Yeah, so this is
Uh,
a big change of pace. So we would all be playing these 5 tracks. They were ranging in difficulty from Ninja 1, so like
mhm.
white belt, to
Yeah,
a Ninja level 4, which would be like around the same of vein of
green and
blue
blue.
belt, green and blue,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And we had a 3-hour session where we would just try to place, the best times, the lowest amount of faults, best times possible.
Mhm.
And they would, Larry and Taylor Leprechaun, they would calculate all the scores up after that
Yeah,
3-hour
yeah.
session happened.
Mhm.
Love the format. I mean, it felt like just a regular old Donut 3000 stream to me. I was just playing through, the
Yeah.
new Ninja
Yeah, yeah.
tracks and just having a ball. And I felt like I did very well the first hour. I got some money off of getting a lot of zero faults first out of everybody in my division.
Nice.
However, I did not get in the top 3 because I was off by 1 fault on
Oh,
the level 4
oh,
ninja. I was off. I
oof.
think I would have been first place if I would have reduced it by 1 fault. So it was a really close competition, which was really fun to
Well,
be a part
the
of.
format sounds great. It sounds very relaxing. Like one thing that the Trials Records um, tournaments are for the competitors is like sweaty. Like it's not easy. Like there's a lot of pressure. Like the time's on you. Whereas like 3 hours is a hell of a lot more time. Like, and it sounds like it worked. Was there competition? Was it exciting for those watching, those taking part? I mean, it doesn't have the same live element, but it seems to have worked. Yeah. So
It's something to get a lot
congratulations.
more people involved and to get Slick building some tracks because
Yeah,
he
yeah, sure.
hadn't made really any other tracks. He made the easy version of Baron.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, Larry gave him a chunk of change and said, "Hey,
Hmm.
build me a few tracks for a competition." And Slick was like, "No problem, I got you." And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
turned
Yeah.
out fantastic.
Yeah.
And
So Horace is saying Larry should do the same for speedrunning. So again, like for me, like ninjas, like as I, it's not that I
yeah, I'd love
like
it too.
again, you know, I don't like ninjas myself. Like they're not my part of trials that I like. But when I do watch a ninja stream, it'll be for the person streaming, not the fact that they're playing ninjas. So much as I never catch your streams because we're completely out of sync in time zones, though, like I see if I'm up early in the morning and you're streaming late, then I'll catch you.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I would love to see that format played out, like 5 new tracks, like speedrunning tracks, and then watch a load of people stream and jump between streams and see how people are getting on and get on the game and like check the leaderboards. And yeah, that sounds like something that again, I think that fresh concept is something that can draw older players back, just this
Hmm.
new way of doing it. This, maybe it's a way that like people who you know wouldn't do so well under so much pressure can get back into it. There's people who I've talked to after the Trials Records tournaments, and they're like, "Whoa, that was so much pressure! Like my heart was pounding, like I was sweating, like they just, most of it was holding it together. Not, they're all capable of these insane runs, um, but it's just who can hold it together, under that 10 minutes pressure. So yeah, that sounds like a great format, honestly.
Yeah, the
Really.
only thing I would change about this format would be I would want more people trying to build in these competitions. Like not just have one person build everything. Even though I love the building style of Slick is fantastic, but I would like to
Mm.
see, one person work on, an easy line, one person would work on a medium line, one person work on
Yeah,
hard, one
yeah,
person
yeah,
extreme,
yeah.
and then just have the
I mean,
whole track pack be combined with like 4 or 5 different people. They could be
yeah, sure.
collaboration projects. They could have a lot more people involved with not the the speedrunning side of things, but the actual building aspect, and maybe
Yeah,
get
yeah,
more people involved
yeah,
with the
yeah,
building too.
yeah. That's it. It's definitely a way to get um like you say, to bring the building into the speedrunning competition or the ninja competition. You know, in terms of like getting people involved, it's, you know, you're just looking for quality builders, aren't you? You know, builders with a track record of quality tracks, and you should be set and good to go. You know, yeah, it sounds like a great format. I'll give it some thought, and you know, maybe the next lockdown tournament will be a little bit different. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
You know, who knows? Yeah, definitely good.
Sounds good, man. All right, well, I don't want to keep you, too late. It's like what, 2 a.m. over there?
No, it's good, man. It's
Almost,
like
almost
for
3 a.m.
me,
for you.
it's like 12:30. It's good. I'm good.
Was there any other, big aspects to the podcast you wanna discuss before
So
we call it a
like
night, call it a day?
there was just a couple of questions on here that I thought were really good. That like we haven't like answered directly. Like
Yeah,
are really
I
good.
skipped past a bunch of this stuff. We just
Yeah,
kind of trail off our train of thought. It's really
absolutely,
casual
absolutely.
doing
And
these things.
that's the sort of podcast I like listening to, where people just trail off and chat shit. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not, you know, everyone knows me, everyone knows you. Like, you know, everyone's going to hear stuff they've heard before, but these specific questions I think are really good. What have been the top 3 moments in your trials progression,
Mm.
and what are the goofiest challenges you've
Well,
done in trials?
I think I can already attribute one moment, and that's getting the 0 faults on the Giga with the shopping cart, probably, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That'd
So
be in the
I've
top
like
3.
it 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 kind of is and it kind of isn't. Because at this stage, like it just didn't feel that hard. There are 3 other moments, like, but like it's definitely there. It's joint with getting Feudal Fun world record. Um, so that was like a 17-hour grind to get that with no fling. So that was pure riding. Now been beaten by Nova on the alpaca, so I feel like
I just
I
watched
feel
that
like real.
recently. He's so
Yeah,
insane. Alpaca
it's
star.
insane. So yeah, I think Giga would be like joint third with the Feudal Fun world record, but let's ignore the Feudal Fun world record and let's say it was Giga for 3. Number 2 would be the Canyon Crash world record. You know, my first global world record after looking at those forum posts, like, you know, 8 or 9 years ago and going, that's something I'd never be able to do. I never thought that, you know, I didn't know that I'd be the guy making the website that tracks the world records, but I just at the time I thought I will never ever post my own time in this, like, whatever format it's in, you know. I just thought I would never be part of that club. And like it was only fortunate that the shopping cart came along and Canyon Crash existed as a track and my friend happened to play it. I mean, I probably would have got round to it one day, but you know, it was all just like by accident and it all just happened. So that was a great moment for me. But the top moment was when I first zero faulted one of the extreme tournaments in Trials Evolution.
All right. Yeah, that's a
And
huge
that,
moment getting the extremes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was after I'd played Fusion. So I basically played Fusion for a long time, like built up a good audience on stream. And then I thought, I'm getting bored of Fusion. I'm going to go back to Evo now that I'm much better at trials and improve all my times. So I went through all the individual tracks because I always hated tournaments because I was just not very consistent. So I just always just thought, I would just get through them, get a platinum, and I'll just leave them. But then it came to like I'd gone through all the tracks and I'd got like, you know, in the top 100 on nearly all of them. And then it came to the tournaments, and obviously I had to get through them and like, you know, get the platinum medals, which in the DLCs were 0 fault runs. So you had to 0 fault the 2 extreme DLC tournaments. And I remember when I first like really got like the hook of trials, it was in Evolution. And I just looked at those extreme tournaments. And again, it was just something that I said to myself, I will never, ever be able to 0 fault them. So, like, the first time I did it, I was like, that's insane. That's just something that I was wholeheartedly convinced I would never, ever be able to do. And that's why, like, Giga isn't like the biggest one, because I knew I could do it, you know?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, you
but
put in
I
a
was
lot of the time and the effort. You're confident in your ability. You're able to
yeah,
do that
that's it.
stuff.
I just knew it was a matter of time. It was just like, if I just keep doing this, it will eventually happen to a satisfactory level, and it did. But with those two things, getting a world record and zero fault in an extreme tournament, I'd convinced myself that I would never, ever in my lifetime achieve those things. So to achieve those two things were absolutely massive for me, like absolutely massive. Anyway,
Yeah.
cheers, Lucas. Catch you later, bro.
Yeah, cheers, Ethereus, and what's up, Thunder? Glad you could catch a
Um,
little bit of the podcast here. But yeah, for some of the three moments for me, you nailed it on the head with like stuff where you don't expect yourself to ever pass it
yeah,
or get a zero
or
fault
achieve it,
or
whatever it is. Yeah,
yeah, whatever
yeah,
that goal was.
yeah,
Back when I got hooked on a trials, I was watching, I believe, Zach's tracks on
yeah.
Track Central,
Mm-hmm.
and I was
Yep.
watching people zero fault them. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, how's this even possible? People are able to beat tracks that are even harder, these extreme tracks that
Yep.
some that I can't even pass at this point. I'll
Exactly.
never
Yeah,
be
you
at that
feel like
point.
that.
And then we got to work, and then we started grinding. And then
That's it.
it's
Yeah.
just you go about it, you tackle it every day with a new challenge. And I never would have thought I'd pass ninja level 5 stuff, let alone
Yeah.
7. So I think some of the biggest
Yeah.
accomplishments that I've received or that I've accomplished in my time, I think getting my first level 7 pass on Rising and beating Agony, that
Mm-hmm.
track that Toby made, was probably one of the biggest. I was literally crying after I beat that track. I
How
was
did you
so happy.
before you did finally achieve that, did you feel like you knew you could do it? Like,
It's a
or was that
constant
something
struggle
that you
for
were
me.
like,
I felt
I don't
like
think I can do this?
it was a constant struggle for me. I go back and forth with self-confidence and playing these tracks where I have to be motivated to play them, and I have
Mm-hmm.
to really enjoy playing them to be like, okay, I can take this step to the next level, and I can achieve beating this track that only, one or two people have maybe passed in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's it.
it,
That's it. And
it's getting a
it,
huge boon or a huge boost to your confidence when you're able to like consistently pass the level before.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So if you're trying to get into a ninja track for the first time, you need to be consistently beating extreme tracks, and you're like, okay, I'm ready. I can do this now. I know the techniques. I have the consistency down. I know I can do it. It's like kind of the phase that I was in.
No, that's sweet, man. That's sweet. So that was number 3. What was number 2?
Um, Number 2, I think would probably be, I don't know. It's a toss up between, I think, Front Wheel God and Makalu were some of my most hype passes that I had gotten on Fusion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put Front Wheel God at number 2,
Yeah.
just because of how early on that was in my process of trying to get into the Ninja 5-ish range.
Yeah.
To this day, I still think that Front Wheel God is like on the upper echelon, like 5 to 6. Like when I hop back into that track, I'm like, what was I thinking? Why would I play this track? What was going through my mind? And it was because I was really stubborn. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, I could
Yeah.
do this track. I love doing
Yeah.
front wheel obstacles. And I was motivated. And I played it every single day. I streamed pretty much for like a month. Or actually, it was like an entire summer. I was like grinding it for a summer. And then and then talk a little bit more about like front wheel God. I played through the individual checkpoints, and that helps a lot too. And gaining that confidence and pushing yourself to the next level is like being able to um or hopefully all the builders have these individual checkpoints, or have the plus, the
Yeah. Yeah.
practice version types of
Yeah.
tracks are really helpful to build that type of consistency, which
Mm-hmm.
I always recommend people to do if they're really trying to push themselves to the higher, newer heights. And then number
Yeah.
1
Absolutely.
is Makalu, because of how stressed out, and that was my biggest goal before Rising came out
Mm-hmm.
as well. Was getting Makalu, and I felt like I still have PTSD if I watch a video of like anybody that plays that track. It was just
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
grind, a hard fought battle.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
people might say, "Oh, well, a level 7 pass is way more accomplishing." I didn't necessarily think that because it was something that I had in the back of my mind, um, that I knew I was going to obtain eventually,
Yeah, that's the
but
difference. Yeah,
but it
yeah,
felt
yeah.
much more casual of like a progression to it. Whereas Makalu was like, I was so hard nosed for a month straight. I completed it in December of
Hmm.
2018, and I just remember throwing my hands up there, lying on the ground, and be like, "Oh my gosh, it's finally over!" And
Yeah,
I I
yeah, yeah.
can I can give myself a pat on the back and say,
Yeah, it's
without a
it's
doubt,
those
big
moments that like
accomplishment.
yeah, the types that we've just highlighted that, like you'll get them in other games for sure. And and it just feels special to us because it's our game trials, but it's things like that that, you know, that means that you can like be part of the community and it's also so wholesome and so positive for me anyway. I went through some rough shit, like, and the trials community were really supportive and they were just there, like, you don't, it's not that you know you don't need a shoulder to cry on, but you know what I mean, like it just, yeah, like the whole community and just the game itself and those moments, it's all just, that's the positive stuff for me. And
Chris,
happy days.
Tondo's Poncho brings up a big point. You get a huge boner from getting these accomplishments as well. You go
Absolutely.
you go full chub, full mast whenever you get these
Absolutely,
massive
absolutely.
accomplishments, and that is a big part of it
Like,
too.
yeah, yeah, you just, yeah, it's real bonus stuff, isn't it? Like, we're all immature as fuck when it comes to that
Oh
sort of
yeah.
stuff. Like, happy days. I'm all for it.
The
You know.
the next big um accomplishment will be getting all the diamonds for me. I feel like if I
Yeah,
obtain all these
yeah, yeah.
diamonds, this will now be a part of like the top 3 instead. It might move some stuff
Yeah, yeah,
around
yeah. I think
once
it's a
I
huge achievement.
once I
There's
get
not a
that.
lot of people who have done that. And like for me, like when Rising first came out, I was like, oh, diamond medals, dope, like something that I'm gonna actually have to work for. But like now that I've like reached the top of the shopping cart, like that just doesn't pique my interest anymore.
Mhm.
Like I'm just like, I know what it like to really grind hard and stuff. Like I don't need to prove that I can do it on the Mantis as well now, you know. Um, I think I'm rank 1 on every single track apart from one. Fucking one. Ugh.
Who
It's
got
that
you on
it's
one
that
with the cart?
it's that micro track with all the bombs. Like I'm gonna go back to
Oh,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know which one you're talking
I've
about.
never smashed a controller in my life. That track made me smash a controller. Like, I've never, like, I've made the first jump, obviously there's no checkpoints, is there? So you've got to do the whole thing in one. I made the first jump once in like 8 hours of trying, like the first jump. And the guy who's actually got it just like makes it look like nothing. Like, I just don't know what to do. So, I wanted to talk about like the goofiest challenges because you didn't mention that either. So obviously the dumbest one I've done is obviously the giga track in the shopping cart.
Mhm.
Um, then I would say the second is trying to pass that horrible bomb track on the micro track pack um, set. That would be number 2
Mhm.
because that's just a joke. And then like in terms of like goofy challenges, like I just like to do different stuff. Obviously, like I'm clearly like on the shopping cart, so I like
Me
doing different
too.
things.
I
So
love the goofy stuff.
I've played, I've tried all of the extreme tracks on, the bikes you're not supposed to do it on. I've done all of those stuff. I've gone on, I've gone into all the tracks that are locked, that you can't do in single player, but you can in multiplayer. On the bikes you can't do in single player. I know I made a mash of that, but you get what I'm saying, yeah?
Yeah.
Like doing the locked tracks in multiplayer with all
Yeah,
the bikes
I'm
that you
still
can't
so
normally use.
surprised that the alpaca isn't allowed. Like, I swear the alpaca should be allowed on so
Yeah,
many more
yeah, yeah.
tracks, like on the ninja tracks in particular, because I proved that is definitely possible. Me and Nova were
Absolutely.
going at it.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I watched that. That was a great, great time to watch. That was really good to see. And that's what again made me think like, oh, maybe the shopping cart can do more than I think it can do. Like if Nova can do that with that bike, Like maybe I can do other things with the shopping cart. But yeah, on the shopping cart, there's 25 tracks that are that I can pass. And Red Link's standard for passing isn't like, can you just get through the track? It's like you need to be able to pass every checkpoint from the checkpoint reset. Like, so you can't get speed from a previous checkpoint. But that still leaves 25 tracks in the game that aren't open to the shopping cart that you can pass, from every checkpoint. So I
It's
feel
always
you.
fun to prove them wrong and be like, I'll show
Yeah,
you what this bike is
exactly.
capable
Yeah,
of. I really like this
exactly.
bike. I could do it.
Yeah. So like with that in mind, like one of the goofiest ones is the Shanghai skyscrapers. Like that is insanely
What part
hard on the
is
shopping
really
cart.
tough on the shopping cart to
You
pass
know
it?
the physics swinging thing in the middle? Like
Yes.
that. Yeah, it's there. Like there's a checkpoint before that because you've got all the tilting I-beams, haven't you?
Hmm.
So not the first I-beam or the second one, it's the third one that's like tricky because it's so short and the shopping cart's so heavy and it's got such slow acceleration, like it just lands on it. And what you have to do to pass it is you have to land on it and then get the I-beam to go vertical and then drive up so that you can then land on the spindle that the I-beam was on and then fling your rider out of the cart onto the platform in front of you where the checkpoint is. Like it's very, it's all very niche and very nerdy and not
Yeah,
something you want to do for fun.
it
Trust me.
feels like a puzzle whenever you're trying to figure
Yeah,
out these
yeah,
tracks with
it
the
is.
goofy
Yeah,
bikes, and I
yeah, yeah,
love that aspect. It's
yeah.
figuring out different ways to tackle checkpoints.
Yeah, it's definitely
Ton of
like
fun to figure
ninja
out.
level stuff for
Yep.
sure. Like some of the checkpoints that are on those tracks, and I can see why Red Links, like they don't understand their own bike that they created, like clearly, because there's just some tracks that are just like, why is this locked? Like, there's absolutely no reason why this should be locked. Sort of Eiffel Tower, for example. Like my girlfriend passed it in like 5 faults in the shopping cart. Like it's really not hard. Um, but it is what it is, they're locked, yeah, and yeah, some of the checkpoints in some of those locked tracks are like ninja level. Like they're not, like they're once you know how to do them, they stop becoming like really hard. But you've really got to put the work in to figure out how to get there, not just like you ninja guys do on them insane tracks.
I was just
Um,
saying the UK up pass with the cart's funny. Turn the seesaw
yeah.
around 180 degrees.
Yeah,
You have to flip
exactly.
it
So,
around.
yeah, you ride over the top of it. So basically, you ride it up, and
Uh,
then instead of instead of landing on it and just driving forward and crossing the jump, what you have to do is like make it go vertical and then ride over the top of it and then wait for it to rock back down and then go, because when you land on it, you're so heavy that you just push it up too fast, and because it accelerates so slowly, yeah, you're just shafted.
That's
Um,
wild.
so yeah, that's the probably one of the funniest runs on the shopping cart.
Did you ever
You
do
know,
any goofy challenges that were related to like doing invisible bike challenges or like maxing out speed, messing with gravity? Do you like any of that stuff ever?
um, in the early days of Rising, because there was a lot of multiplayer going on, like I did play a lot of multiplayer with goofy challenges on. With silly, but they just you can only do so much of that in trials, can't you?
Yeah,
Like
it messes
it,
up your gameplay so much too if you mess around with it too long.
that's it.
Whenever
That's it.
I
So,
lower the
like,
gravity and then I try to jump immediately into a ninja track, I just want to toss my TV out the window
yeah,
at that
exactly. So,
point.
like, you think like there's like 500% gravity. Well, you can't even get to checkpoint one when you've got that set on. Like, so there's a lot of parameters. That the goofiness that's just like utterly useless. And again, it's kind of like FMX. Like you give it a go, you have some fun with it, and then it's sort of like right back to the grind. Back to the more serious stuff.
I'll have you know I never enjoyed FMX actually.
Um, well,
I was never a
like
fan of the FMX stuff.
on the first playthrough, I was like, oh well, this is okay, like and then you're like, again, it becomes like quite stale quite quickly.
Yeah, and then you hop into some Track Central tracks, and then they forget to turn off FMX, and then you just
Yep.
like Superman dive into a wall, and you're just
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
why? What's the point of this?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's clearly like, you know, that they know it was a mistake because it didn't make a return in Rising. So, you know, that's fair play. One thing they listened to. Even though like during the early Fusion days, they were like, yeah, like we've got all these stats to show that FMX is really popular, and you're like, well, yeah, because like all these new players are coming on and just having a go. Like, you wait, like there'll be like a drop off on the graph that basically plummets to the ground when, like, you know, those new players stop playing and it's just us lot left and none of us play it, you know, apart from FMX Zilla.
3 a.m. for your hours. Only have 4 hours to sleep. You should go. Yeah, man. You can always listen to the rest of the podcast
Yeah,
on
that's
the
cool.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I upload the podcast
Yeah, I mean,
next day for sure.
really, like in terms of like the podcast, in terms of like, I think we've gone over everything bar Trials Records, really. So I think we can wrap it up with Trials Records if you want, bro.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about when did you make that during the time? I was actually going to talk about that earlier when you were like, seeing all the records and stuff on Evo. And did you make that during Evo days, or was that more of a recent installment?
No. I made the very first revision of it about 3 years into Fusion.
Oh wow,
Like,
okay.
again, it was
a
one
lot
of
later
those
than I
things
thought.
where yeah. But it was bad. Like, it was bad. It was basic. It was, nobody knew about it, and Fusion was so old that nobody wanted to go in and plug in all their old records. So, you know, it was a bit like I was nowhere near as committed to it as I was, you know, when Rising came out. So Fusion, we had the forum in Fusion, and because obviously we got moved over to the Ubisoft forums, it was awful, and it just felt a bit of a cold place, and it wasn't very nice. And
yeah, the
so
forums don't feel like they're a very active place at all.
they're dead. You know, they're deader than the game is. So yeah, I just looked at that forum and was just like, well, I could just do that better. I just think I could do that better. So I made a website, and it was all just a sort of test of concept at first, and it was like a form, you know, you got to log in, and you'd then be able to like post your own records, and um the records would then get verified if they were a potential world record, and it was all a bit like more complicated than it needed to be. So then when like it just sat there for like 2 years, just having like 12 world records on it, just on like a white page. It was really, really basic and bad. And then Rising came round, and I was working in a primary school at the time, and I had a lot of free time in my office. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a good job of that. And so I just made Trials Records, and I just thought what I wanted was the history aspect. So that's like a lot, you know, a lot of people might go on Trials Records and just see like the current Trials World Records. But for me, it was always about, with the forums, you don't have any history. You can't look back and go, well, I just got a really good run. Was it world record once? You know, and I think like that was because I had a real boner for getting a world record. I thought, well, if I can't actually get a world record, if I can get a really good run on a track that used to be world record, that might satisfy me a little bit. So what I then wanted to do was like track the history, and that was the biggest thing about Trials Records, was about being able to see more than what the forums just showed you, because the forums would just show you the current world records.
Okay, so so that's what you'd recommend for like anybody that's going into Trials Records for the first time, is to explain to them you should be looking at the history of what's happened with the game, not just the more recent stuff.
Yeah, so I'll just bring up Trials Records, because I forget the number, but we've tracked like 1,300 records in Rising. So the history, and you know, I think that averages out to be 2.6 world records a day or something. You know, it's a fair amount of world records a day. And for me, that was always the most interesting thing. And it means that like you can, you know, you as a player who might be getting better, but you're not at world record level, you can look back and go, well, the times I'm getting now used to be a world record. You know, there is potential for that, because there's a lot of, you know, and yeah, I just thought that was the really like the more impressive thing about Trials Records. It's really easy to just slam some data on a web page.
Yeah, I'm gonna plug the Trials Records right now
Cheers,
on the chat. If anybody wants to check that out, please give some support to that website because I think it's a brilliant plan.
Yeah, sure.
Really nice to see that history.
And yeah, like I say, it was all about just one, having a better and cleaner way to look at the current Trials records. Like at the time it was Fusion, but obviously then Rising came out and I rebranded and rebuilt, and here we are. But for me, it was always about capturing that historical data to then be able to do cool stuff with that. So this, when the winter comes, I'll be sitting back in my office and I'll be adding a whole host of features. Like, there's a channel in my Discord that is site suggestions, and loads of people have made suggestions, but I just haven't been in the mood to develop them. So come the winter, when I'm sat in my office a lot and bored out of my brains, I'll probably be implementing those. And so there'll be a lot more features to do with the history. There's not a lot more I can do with the current records because it is essentially just a table of records. But there's a hell of a lot more I can do with the history. So yeah, watch out for that. Obviously, if you're part of the Trials Records Discord, you'll find out when any updates are done to the website. But yeah, like I say, it was always about just like making what we do more public. So with the YouTube channel and uploading the runs on there as well. It just speed running's becoming a bigger thing. So if I can just capture a few people, from other communities through the website and YouTube, then happy days. So yeah,
Yo,
that's
John.
Trials Records.
Yeah, dude, thanks for talking about that a little bit. I like to hop in there every once in a while and check out the records here and there. If I don't catch them already, just going through tracks. Now that I'm grinding diamonds, I usually stop by and I look at a lot of the records for it. I end up watching a lot of the lower diamond runs so I can kind of find my middle ground on like, all right, what ninja techniques can I implement in my speedrunning and whatnot. But John, what's going on? Anywhere you can go for a list of ninjas to start on. Want to try to play them? There is a website called Ninja Central. I'm gonna plug that in here. You can find tracks for both Rising and Fusion through this website, and you can filter it by the ninja difficulty. You can go 1 through 7 on Rising. They're level 8s. Got up to like the craziest level 8s on Fusion, but you can always use that filter to find really good decorated tracks as well. So you can search up, ninja level 1, decoration level 5 on that website, and you'll find probably all the Zach tracks on there because that guy's a madman at building. Makes a lot of easy ninja tracks that you should definitely start on.
Yeah, great website, really good website. And again, that was one of the websites I looked at and was like, yeah, like my Trials Records can be as good as Ninja Central for sure. So like that was an inspiration. I forget about it because I'm not a ninja. I've been on the website lots of times just to see like the updates and the structure and how they do things there. But I've never needed to use it to find a track,
Yeah,
but
your
I've
website
been on there plenty of times.
Yeah, your website is like the speedrunning side of Ninja Central.
Yeah, that's it. We've both got our niches, and like being a ninja isn't about being number one, is it? It's about like passing. I believe, like. I'm sure when you are like number 1 and number 2 and number 3, you're all going to have your little personal battles. But I think, like, I look at ninjas, it's more about like, who passed. Like nobody really cares if you got 256 faults or 220 faults. It's like, could you pass that track? Whereas speed running is just like, who is number 1? Like that's all that matters. Certainly for Trials Records anyway. So yeah, Trials Records, the place where you're going to find all the historical data for Trials Rising. We've also got the Trials Fusion and Trials Evo current world records on there, so they do get updated. We've got people with eyes on those games. There's also a Trials Rising Riddle article on there, so if you want to get up to date with that, there is that too. So yeah, check the website out. I'll put a bit of work into it. I'll put some more work into it
Yeah,
soon.
I'll definitely link this in the description as well when I post the YouTube video, man, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we covered everything in the questions, man. There's some really good questions. And
yeah, I think we got it all, man.
Good chat, man.
That was a great chat. I think that's probably been one of the longer sessions that we've had on the podcast, man. Really appreciate you being here.
Well, like my missus sits on that couch next to me and she's rolling her eyes at me because I'm running on and I just run on. So like, I apologize if anyone has just like listened to me chat utter shite for 2 hours. Like, but I've really enjoyed it, man. It's been really good. Like, I'm never up this late these days. I'm usually like tucked up in bed by now, but I've really enjoyed it. It's been worth staying up for. So thanks for having me, man. Thanks for putting on the podcast and, you know, featuring the people you have. And let's keep doing it.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of the community and for leading the charge with the riddle and the cart.
My pleasure, like I say.
All that good stuff, man.
The community's given me more than enough. Like, it's about time I gave something back. So yeah, like I say, it's all for you lot. You know, I don't do it. I do it for me. You know, we're all a bit selfish at the end of the day, but mainly I do it for you lot. So yeah, like I say, just keep coming along and enjoying everyone who's doing stuff for trials, and you know, let's keep the community alive in the hope that they'd make a good game soon. And yeah, like I say, stick around. The community, get involved where you can, do what you can, and if you've got something to bring to the table, bring it along. I love to be involved.
Yeah, I love it when people ask me questions in the chat, like, you know, where should I get started on ninjas is like a big one that I could just talk all day about ninja tracks and just my journey that I've gone through.
Man, you're so passionate.
That is my passion about.
Like all of this podcast is like everything that like your passion just bleeds ninja, man. It's so cool, you know. So it's very positive. So
but I am really liking the speedrunning. I've gotten a soft spot for the speedrunning now, and I'm so glad that I've been a part of the rising speedrunning now. It's been really fun.
Yeah. You've got a lot of fun ahead of you, man. If you're looking to be at that top place, you know, I've done it with the shopping cart now. So like I said, I don't feel like I need to do it again with the mantis. But yeah, you got some fun, because I remember how good it was in Evo, like pushing yourself to that level where you really think that you've pushed yourself hard. And yeah, good luck, man. You're gonna need it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Oh, and to answer John's question, do you recommend learning ninjas on Fusion or Rising first? I really like the Fusion ninjas. That's where I began. I recommend Fusion all day, every day with ninjas, but there are some good ones. I think the throttle is a lot easier on Rising if you want to learn, you know, to climb up 90-degree walls. Rising is a much easier segue into the ninjas, in my opinion, but I do enjoy the Fusion more. Give you my insight on that.
For me, I'd say if you can, play both for sure.
Yeah, if you get the chance, play both of them.
But like the true ninja scene does live in Trials Fusion. Like that's where like I think its home is. Like, so like I say, play both. Play Evo as well.
I think Evo as well has a really big ninja scene to it. I didn't really get into Evo a whole lot, but you know what? Maybe another stream down the road we'll do some more Evo ninjas, and maybe I'll get that itch to play more of that stuff. Yeah. Sweet one. It's been great to chat, man. Yeah, this has been good.
Everyone coming along and listening to me. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for chilling, everybody.
Yeah, excellent. I hope you all have a good evening. Whatever you're doing, like, be safe. You know, wash your hands. You know, all that jazz.
Yeah, don't you know, no locking lips with anybody quite yet that you don't know. You know, don't just go on the street and
like
start
just
Frenching everybody.
You know, I suppose, like, you know, if you want one piece of advice, guys, like, I'll leave you with this one piece of advice. It's not that deep, but it's really easy to follow. Lads, right? It takes longer to pretend you've washed your hands than to just wash your hands. And on that note, boys and girls, peace out. I'm gonna go now, man. It's been a great talk, like, really is, and it's a great effort
Good
you
night,
put on it. So yeah, thanks everyone. I'll catch you all real soon. I'm gonna be streaming a Canyon Crash world record PBs soon, apparently.
I'll see you in that stream. I'm gonna go raid Tailored Leprechaun. Go chill out, chat with him. I'll probably go get some food, and I'm gonna hang out with him for a bit. So see you, everybody.
Yeah. Peace out.